folks. I'm Craig Lipinski.
I'm Seth Castello.
And I'm Chris Dunn.
And you're listening to episode 22 of Ludowave Radio, the smooth sounds of video game talk. And the gang's all here. It's been a little bit since all of us were here.
I was here last episode. I was doing a really good Megan impression.
It was you fooled me. It was me and Megan last episode, and she did a really good job, I think. She came prepared. She had notes. She read all the articles, which I don't even fucking do.
She's way more prepared than I am today.
That's putting in more work than I've ever put in.
She did a really good job, and a few people spoke up and said that they enjoyed her on the podcast. So it's good to have her here.
I'm feeling the heat now.
It's good to have her. It's good to have a replacement.
It's right. It's good to have a backup when Chris goes to Disney World.
That is a thing that happens somewhat frequently.
20 times a year.
No, it's only like 5 times a year. Be realistic, Seth.
25 times a year.
25
Wait a minute.
We're getting married in 2 weeks.
Are we?
Yeah, me and you.
Congratulations,
Nice.
you guys.
I didn't even know. Thank you.
Mazel tov. No, Megan and I are getting married in 2 weeks, which is it seems like right around the corner, but it also seems like, wow, it's because we've done all this planning. Like, you just do all this work, and you're like, there's still 2 more weeks. What do I got to do to kill fucking time until his wedding?
Play video games?
Play video games. Yeah, that's about right. And sometimes, I don't know, some of the vendors have been a little like flaky, which is
not great when you're trying to plan a wedding.
Well, right, and it's not that big of a deal. Like, we end up connecting with people in the end, but like, it's kind of like you got to remind yourself, like, you're just a customer. Like, this day is not nearly as important to them as it is to you. So I just got to tell myself that, but it's coming together pretty well. I don't know how this sounds. I'm kind of anxious to get it over with. It sounds kind of terrible, but
yeah, it's fine.
When you're like working towards it, like, you just want that day to finally be here, and you'll blink and it's over. So, but the past few weeks, just been doing my art thing. I got a ton of customers doing this watercolor and ink illustration stuff. I don't charge a ton of money, so they're not, it's not paying my rent, but it's kind of a nice ego boost to have so many customers lined up.
That's cool.
That is cool.
How many have you disappointed?
I think I'm the only one.
I was going to say, Chris, how do you feel about this?
No, I did buy a piece from Craig. I asked him to do something for me based on Zelda 2, and he did this awesome, really dynamic piece with Link fighting Rebanak, who is the official name of the Iron Knuckle you fight in the Third Palace, which was my online screen name for a very long time. So it's super cool. I need to get it framed to put it on my wall, but I'm really happy with it. So thanks, Craig.
That's one satisfied customer. It was either going to be Rebanak, or it was going to be that part of the game where, like, all those, like, lizard dudes throw rocks at you over the wall.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I would never want to look at that ever.
No, that's the worst part of the game.
It's the worst part of the game. Absolutely. The other day, a bunch of my stuff broke, which is really... When you don't really, like, have, like, a ton of money, which, normally I do okay. I'm not going to talk about my finance, but normally I do okay. If something breaks, I can replace it. And... like, on the same day, my Mac shit the bed, and it's been like a long, drawn-out death. It wasn't unexpected. It's just the fucking thing wouldn't boot. And it's only, it's 6 years old. It's not a spring chicken, but you would think it would at least boot.
Yeah,
it's not a lot to ask.
So I had to it's not a lot to ask. So I had to reformat it, and it's running a lot better now. There's not a lot. I think it's like a dual core i5 with like 8 gigs of RAM. It's basically a launch Xbox One, so it's just not a lot you can do to it to make it run very well at this point. But it hangs in there another year or two. I'll be happy. I don't use it a ton, Like, I use my phone or my iPad. I basically use it for the podcast, and while I'm working on commissions, I maybe have a YouTube video running on it. That's really about it. It's all it's for.
Well, as long as it keeps working for a little while longer.
Yeah, I was actually Googling ways to like do podcasts from like an iPad, and it was like a pain in the ass, and I would have had to buy some cables and stuff, but it would have been doable. I wouldn't have been able to like edit it, because with the I use GarageBand on Mac OS to do it, and so like I have like the music, I have like a setup template for it, and thankfully I do have backups, so I was able to plug that stuff back in. But if I wasn't able to get this computer up and running again, there would have been no theme music to Ludowave Radio. It would have been a tragedy.
It would have been very, very. I could just do it with my mouth.
Like, can you do like Seinfeld noises?
Yeah, no, I don't know. That would be terrible. Everybody would turn it off right as soon as it started.
Immediately. And then my Joy-Cons broke too that same day.
What?
Yeah, that was another slow burn. They were doing that. I don't know if you've heard about like the drift that some of like the launch Joy-Cons do, where the analog stick just kind of moves on its own.
Yeah, I've read that.
And you go to like recalibrate it, you can see like the little dot where this, the software thinks the analog stick is, and you can see it bouncing around, and you try to press down, and there's no physical resistance, but you can see that dot struggling to like move down. And I tried I tried recalibrating. I tried factory resetting them because they have updates. There's firmware in the controller, so. Did what I could there. Someone, the internet suggests like canned air, because if you look at your the analog sticks on the Joy-Cons, there's actually like where like the stem meets the ball. There's actually like a little rubber skirt. It's strange, and I guess shit gets stuck in there sometimes and fucks the whole thing up. So the internet recommends shooting some canned air in there under the skirt, get just some air under the skirt, and that didn't help. So. And Joy-Cons are so expensive. My sister works at GameStop, so I got a little bit of a discount. And I took the opportunity to get the really pretty Splatoon colored ones.
Oh, those are the ones I want. Those are really nice.
They're very nice.
I was trying to get them when Walmart had them like on accidental sale for like $20 for the pair or something. But I was like, I'll just get them tomorrow. And then I like checked the next day, and then they were all sold out. I was like,
yeah, no, mine weren't sold. They had them in the Walmart right down the street, and I opted not to do it because I'm like, well, why would I spend money on something I don't need?
Yeah, that's what I was doing.
Yeah, that kind of.
And they could have come in handy.
Yep. So I had to spend. I don't know what it was. It was like $68 or something like that after my sister's discount, but it's still a lot of money.
Yeah, they're expensive. They're super expensive. All the fucking controllers are expensive.
Yeah.
I just paid $70 for those two NES controllers for the Switch.
Ugh. Jesus, yeah, no, I totally opted not to do those. I'm not going to use those damn things. But that's it. That's me. Just stuff breaking and wedding planning and doing art to subsist on gruel like Oliver Twist.
All sounds terrible.
My life is a train wreck. It's out of control. Seth, welcome back from Bonetown, Nova Scotia.
Bonetown. I'm back from Bonetown. I didn't even know you called it Bone. My girlfriend listened to the podcast, and she was telling me that you were calling it Bonetown, and that was all very fun. Yeah, I'm back. I have no stories to tell from that place, from Bonetown. There was some boning and there was some towning, and that's pretty much all that happened.
Well. Was it worth the plane ticket?
Of course. No, I mean, we had good times, just boring stuff. We went to a place called Peggy's Cove with a lighthouse. It was very picturesque, and there were lots of rocks for me to climb around on. These aren't
you corny fuck.
That sounds lovely, Seth.
And we made
Tell
love
me more.
Under the stars.
It was very. Oh my god! So this place.
Seth, don't actually tell me more.
No, I'm telling you
damn
because
it.
This place had a restaurant. No, fuck you. This place had a restaurant. And my girlfriend's allergic to fish. If she eats them, she'll die. That's what she tells me anyway, but I don't know if I believe her. So, every time I go to Nova Scotia, it's fucking on the Atlantic Ocean. There's fish everywhere. So, we get to this restaurant that's also attached to a gift shop and stuff because it's all a very touristy place. But whatever. I'm like, I'm going to finally get some seafood because I love seafood. And so I get their seafood chowder.
Do you not have an ocean in California?
Yes, but
I don't have an ocean in Wisconsin.
We don't have giant lobster and stuff like that at that variety. Anyway, so
well, lobster's disgusting.
So I get the seafood chowder, and it is like the most disgusting thing I've ever had. Like I don't.
Because there's lobster in it.
With these, there was actually. Well, they said there was lobster in it, but I couldn't find it. It was like 90% potatoes, and then like some fish that tasted like it was frozen, and like maybe lobster. The menu said there's lobster, but I couldn't find any in there, so I was just very disappointed in this shitty restaurant. I have a better story though.
Why'd you waste our time with the shitty one first?
You don't even get the better one now, because the better one's just me hating myself or something. No, I was walking the dog. Earlier this week, and I'm approaching a guy who's smoking. He's like standing next to a building smoking, which is fine. And then like about 5 feet before I get to him, and before I could even am even in his smoke zone, I accidentally breathe in some of my saliva. So then obviously I start like choking and gagging on him, like, and then I just look like one of those dudes who starts fake dying whenever he's around a cigarette. And I was just like deathly embarrassed by the entire thing, because I just looked like, oh my God, I can't believe you're smoking. And then when I cleared the guy, I was even like, well, Boy Piper, that's my dog's name. I was like, Boy Piper, I sure breathed in my own saliva right there just so I could try to save face. And it was just terrible. I didn't want to be one of those.
Way to drink, Poindexter.
Yeah. Way to drink. So, of those two stories, hold on, I'm writing this down. Which one was better? Which one should we go for when we actually start recording this podcast?
They were both pretty bad. Fuck.
All right, well, I'm going to have to go with one of those two. Chris, what are you doing up to?
Are we going to start recording now? Okay.
Sure.
I feel like I haven't been up to anything because I've been working a ton this week. We have the Big Pet Festival this weekend that I talked about last year, and you guys all laughed at me. But I haven't been on the show in like a month or 2 months or however how long it's been. So
it's been a few years.
Yeah, give or take.
You were in that coma for a really long time.
Wait, really? I thought they were just messing with me.
No, we're Ludowave Radio now. It's a completely different thing.
Wait a minute. No, I went to Connecticut, and I saw Craig, and I went to a comic convention, and that was pretty cool.
What comic convention?
It was called Terrificon, which is at Mohegan Sun in Connecticut.
Wasn't that Connecticut at one, or is Connecticut something different, or is it like Connecticut Comic Con?
Connecticut was definitely a thing. I don't know if they're related or not. I never went to that. This is the first time I've ever actually been to one in Connecticut. It's like Comic Cons aren't a thing I go to a ton of. You know, I've been to a couple, but it was a lot of fun. I was excited.
I could have sworn that Terrificon was called something
else.
It
very well may have been. I didn't hear of it until like 2 years ago, so before that it may have been Connecticut. Because I know Connecticut was definitely a thing, and I haven't heard of that in a while, so...
Yeah, I'm trying to... I think I'm wrong. I think Connecticut's something different, and then that was like Connecticut Comic Con, and maybe they got in trouble for calling it Connecticut Comic Con, so they called it Terrificon.
Yeah, I don't know.
Cool name, Terrificon.
No, it's terrible. That's like... it's such a bad name.
Amazeballs-a-con!
That's much better.
And Mohegan Sun. Yeah,
I'm going to write him an angry email. Tell him you should call it Amazeballs-a-con.
Please
don't. But that was fun. You know, like I said, I don't go to a lot of cons, but it was like this was, you know, kind of a place I could go and have not to pay for a hotel, which was nice. Visit my friends, visit my family, hang out with Craig, you know. It was cool. And they had a bunch of classic Spider-Man writers and artists, and obviously I collect a ton of Spider-Man comics. Whereas a lot of cons generally tend to have, you know, whoever's the big hot guy at the time, you know, so there'll be a lot of modern guys. So it was cool to me to get to meet
you don't like big hot guys. Is that the takeaway?
No, I
from
love
this?
big hot guys.
Okay, just be clear.
Chris, do you know who else lives in a town with a big comic convention that you could visit and not have to pay for a hotel?
We already went over this. It's Craig.
God damn it.
He'd rather hang out with me than hang out with you. This is what he's throwing down right now.
Obviously. I'm just going to cry. I'm going to cry extra hard after this podcast, not the normal small crying I do after we
can
record.
just stop recording now if you need to cry, Seth. We just pause.
Yeah.
I'm going to continue. I'm going to continue recording.
All right.
I would love to go to San Diego Comic-Con someday, but like it's so big, and getting tickets and the hotel lottery, and if I wouldn't have to do the hotel lottery, that could be pretty cool. But
I got guest room. There's a guest room.
good to know. I will keep that in mind.
It's filled with half naked anime girl statues, but it's
I
a
want
guest
big
room.
hot guys,
I
Seth.
have-
If you don't have that, then I'm out.
I own literally only one half-naked anime girl statue, okay?
That is one more than
Does she
I
have
own.
her own
but
room?
Who's counting?
It's, I can't even think of her name from Muramasa, the Demon Blade.
Was it Momohime?
Momohime, that's right.
I was going to say, is it Muramasa, but you probably knew that it was not.
No, I didn't.
Is that the famous Muramasa from Muramasa the Demon Blade?
Somehow I didn't think that was right.
No. I mean, I got a Pikachu, and he's completely naked except for a hat.
You got to peek at who?
Pikachu, exactly.
I have also.
Sounds like we found your big
I
hot
feel
guy.
like this is going to sound like a joke, but I have also been to Disney World since the last time we recorded. So
We know.
I'm just going to say that. We're going to move on. We're going to, we don't need to talk about it.
I do. Have they fixed up like a Mickey Toontown area yet? Have they done anything better than the Mickey Toontown?
The
Circus
Mickey
or whatever the hell
Toontown
it's
Fair
called?
is not there anymore. They changed it. They expanded Fantasyland, so now there's a Beast Castle. There's an aerial. When the aerial ride went in, which Disneyland has that, right? Or is that in DCA?
Yeah, no, California Adventure has it.
Yeah, when they put that in Disneyland, I think it was around the same time they expanded Fantasyland in Florida. So the Toontown Fair is gone, and they expanded Fantasyland, and it's definitely a big improvement because that was not a great area.
Do they strive for some sort of parity between the two parks?
Kind of like, it's complicated. Like Disneyland and the Magic Kingdom are basically the same thing between the two, and then like some of the stuff that was like at a bunch of the different parks at Disney World, they stuck into California Adventure over here.
Yeah.
But California Adventure still kind of blows overall.
Yeah, but Disneyland is better than Magic Kingdom, so.
Yeah.
Which is weird for me to
I've
say,
only been to
considering I go to
Disneyland.
Disney World, several times a year. But and before I had
But
been
isn't
to
that overall
Disneyland,
bigger?
Seth and I would argue about this. I'd be like, "Oh, Disney World is way better," and then I went to Disneyland. And I was like, "Oh, never mind."
Yeah, because I mean, the overall, like Disney World's better because it has way more stuff. But just comparing Magic Kingdom to Disneyland,
Right.
I don't think it's.
Yeah. It feels different. Like I feel like I sound lame saying it's like, oh, it's because Walt built it, but like it does somehow. Magic Kingdom feels more commercial and like it was built by marketing people, and it's bigger and it's more spread out, which is nice. But I don't know. There's a weird different feel to it.
And is Toy Story Land a thing there yet?
It is
Toy
open.
Story
We
Land
did not
built?
go to that. We actually our
Okay.
annual passes ended in July, I think. So we spent one day just like hanging by the pool. We went to Epcot one day for the Food and Wine Festival, and I think we spent a day at Disney Springs, which is formerly Downtown Disney. So
Which park did they stick Toy Story Land?
it's in Hollywood Studios.
Okay.
So Hollywood Studios kind of sucked for like the last year because they're putting in Star Wars Land and they're putting in Toy Story Land, and closing a bunch of stuff to make room for that, but still charging full price for tickets when this stuff isn't open yet. So
Yeah. I mean, Disneyland's been like raising their prices every single year, and then a bunch of the parks closed down for Star Wars
right.
Land.
So I'm excited to go next summer once Star Wars Land is open too.
Yeah.
That's gonna be fun. But that's about it. Just traveling the world, how you do.
Yes.
Fucking jet setting around.
That's right.
All right, let's talk about some video games. 19 minutes into this podcast.
It's fine.
People know
it's
what we're
perfectly
about
fine.
at
People
this
seem
point.
people seem to like it. People know what they're buying into at this point.
Yeah.
People know what we're about, or at least what you two are about, because you guys are usually here.
That's true. So I have been playing. I finished the Valkyria Chronicles 4 demo on Switch, and none too soon. It comes out. The game comes out Tuesday, and that was a beefy demo. It's three missions, including a tutorial mission, and each mission has something a bit different about it. that makes it really interesting. And like in one of them, there's it's like Fog of War basically. You don't have a really good, distance vision, and neither do the enemies. But you sort of have to skulk around in the fog and determine. There's all these tanks on the map, but some of them are decoy tanks, some of them are fake. So you have to determine what tanks are real before you call in air support. So that was kind of neat. And then there's a bonus mission when you finish it, and the bonus mission is exclusive to the demo. And then there's 2 skirmish missions, and skirmishes are how you earn experience and money outside of the story, so that you have an opportunity to sort of grind a little bit if you want. And then, I mean, all your progress carries over to the main game, so it's a pretty substantial demo. And I always wonder, if that's... I wonder how publishers view big demos like that. Because I think for some people, like, I got my fill of the game. I played 3 or 4 hours. I'm done here. Or is it like a really good marketing tool, to like hook them? I don't know. I don't know how they view that, but I like it.
I think it goes both ways. Because I mean, like, I feel like a lot of people who wouldn't buy the game anyways are just going to get their fill on the demo.
Right.
I mean, thank God at least Nintendo's not doing that thing where it's like, you get to use the demo 5 times.
Oh, God.
That's it.
Yeah, I never understood that.
Yeah, I don't know if that was a Nintendo's push or publisher's push, but it was dumb. But it was obviously to get people from, like, just spending all their time playing only the demo and never...
But most of the demos in those cases were, like, just little morsels.
Yeah.
There aren't too many 3DS demos I can think of that weren't... I think Monster Hunter Stories that was like an 8-hour demo. That was huge.
That demo was... I didn't even finish the fucking demo because I was like, I might as well be playing the full game at this point. I don't know when this thing ends.
It was massive. And
I played
it
for like 3 hours.
Yeah, no, I played it for 8. Yeah, no, it was big. But I personally kind of like it, especially if I'm going to buy the game. Because then, it's basically getting like an early access or something like that, sort of getting a jump start on it.
Yeah.
But I sort of wonder if there are people who play it and then go, that was good, but I got 8 hours out of it for free. Like, why would I buy this?
I remember people who, like, on Xbox 360 that just, like, play the Dead Rising demo over and over again instead of ever buying the game.
Mechanically, you're basically playing the game anyway when you're doing that. Like, narratively, sure, no, but mechanically, yeah, that's basically the game.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you just have to be confident in your product, I guess, to think that, like, people aren't going to walk away sated. They're going to walk away thinking, man, I really want to play more of this. Like, I feel invested.
Do you feel invested, Craig?
Oh, I do. Yeah, and actually more than... I had already pre-ordered anyway. I was already looking forward to it, but yeah, it's really good. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about, like, strategy games or strategy RPGs. But I'm actually more amped now after playing the demo. And I was already a sure thing anyway. I mean, I was already going to, sleep with the prom king after the prom anyway. That was a sure bet. But now
it's
I'm
funny
super...
because I've played very few strategy RPGs, like Fire Emblem games, like Shining Force 2 back on Genesis, and Project Cross Zone, games like that. And I enjoy them, but it's so hard for me to ever fucking beat them because... I just feel like they get too long or too tedious or just different things. Well,
I feel the same way. I think that most of the time I don't finish them as well. I think, like, Advance Wars, like, off the top of my head, are, like, the games that I tend to finish. I think what sets apart Valkyria Chronicles is that, one is that it has that action component when it's your turn where you're, free to move around and aim your shots. It has... the action component sets it apart from a lot of other strategy RPGs. And also, a lot of missions feel different. Like I said, just even in the demo, I mean, the tutorial mission was very basic, but other things were just a lot more interesting. One mission added a unit in the middle of it, and it's a grenadier. The grenadiers have, like, these portable...
Grenades?
Yeah, they're portable grenade launchers. So they're, like... They sort of extend like cannons, like these arcs, and so they're like slower moving units. They're slow because they have to, like, carry around this pack, and then when you go to use them, they have to set it up and deploy it, and so they're a little bit slower, but they can shoot out these grenades and fuck stuff up, and it's kind of fun how the missions are. There's a standard component to them where it's like, yeah, I'll move this guy over here and shoot this guy. Those standard strategies apply, but then the game will throw something different at you and mix it up, and it's pretty good.
How are deaths handled, Craig?
So I did actually have someone die. I think there's a permanent component, but you sort of have like a grace period. So someone goes down. Because I turned a corner and there was a tank there and it just immediately blew this person away. I'm just dead. Just no chance. Knocked her right on her ass. So if an enemy gets to them, I think they're dead. I think that's how that works. But if you can get someone to them and just touch them, they can call in a medic, and a medic will come in and take them out. And then I think that they're available to use the mission after next.
Okay.
So if you don't get to them, or if you just leave them there, or just leave them dead in the grass or whatever, then yeah, I think they're gone. But it's not like it's been a while since I played Fire Emblem. But like when you level up, when you spend experience points between missions at base camp to like level up, all characters in that class get that level up. It's not individual. Same thing when you use money to invest in new gear. Anyone who can equip that gear gets the benefit.
No, that's nice.
Yeah, there are some things that are unique. So like sometimes like the enemies will like leave behind. Sometimes you'll get like spoils of war, and you'll get like unique enemy weapons, and those are like single. Only one person can use those. But this way, you're not trying to juggle so many different characters and trying to level them up, which is nice. It's by class. But no, good game. Looking forward to it. I've also playing a little bit of Pocket City, which is an iOS city builder on my iPad, and it's so nice because it's not some money grubbing piece of shit that's free to play, and then says, "Oh, your skyscraper is going to take 5 hours unless you spend 3 gems."
So does the game cost money up front?
It does, yes. Very little. It's like it was under $5. It was like I don't know, $2, $3, $4, something like that. It was less than $5. So it's not like City Skylines. It's not super in depth or robust, but it's pretty competent for under $5. It has missions and quests. It has all kinds of like different things to build to unlock. You got to earn them, and it reminds me a bit of a much more modern take on older Sim cities. Like, oh, you got to build a residential zone or a commercial zone, and you got to build power plants, and they'll power X number of buildings along this road or whatever. And so
older Sim City is literally the only city builders I've ever played. So that's all I'm familiar with.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's all I've played, but I've seen other ones, and they get pretty wonky. Like wonky as in terms of like they get very complex, and I'm sort of like City Skylines came out on Switch, and I'm like wringing my hands. I'm like, yeah, I really want to get into that, but I'm like, this looks too complex. This is like I just want to sit down and manage resources. I like resource management. It just scratches an itch for me. I don't want to sit there and be like civil engineering the shit. I don't want to do that. Like that's not interesting to me. So, Pocket City seems to scratch that itch without being too bogged down. I like it. So, if anyone's looking for something like that on iOS, there it is. I've been revisiting Metal Gear Solid, and this was fucking weird. I could have sworn Metal Gear Solid was available to play on Vita, and I couldn't find it on the Vita PlayStation Network store. It just wasn't there. And someone told me, yeah, I think you got to download it on your PS3 and copy it over. And I vaguely remembered like that was a thing that people did with their Vitas, and I'm like, oh fuck me.
Because it was like like you got to do that for the PSP games.
I don't understand that. That doesn't. Why is that a thing? That's so weird.
It's not even all PSP games. Some you can just download on there. PSP I think. Games.
Right. Yeah. Some of them you can.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I was looking at it's the PS1 Classics. It's the PS1 Classics that you got to do it for at least. Because I was looking at some other ones, and like even on the Sony store, it's like to get it on your Vita, you got to blah blah blah. Like,
not all PS1 Classics. Most. I mean, I have several. I have Suikoden 2. I have Dino Crisis. I have a whole bunch. and I downloaded them right from the Vita. But there are certain games that you can only download to the PS3, and then you can play them on the Vita, but you got to copy them over. And I don't know why.
I was looking at Crash Team Racing, and that was like part of what was saying on it on the store page. So I have no idea what's up with that.
I don't get it. Apparently, North America is the only region that does that. Apparently, in Europe, because someone I don't know who it was on Twitter was something like, "It's right there on the store," and I'm like, "Nah, dude, you're in Scandinavia. It's not the case here." So yeah, I had to hook up my PS3, update it. That thing is so fucking slow.
And so you probably haven't started playing yet because your PS3 is still updating.
It did. I got it done. Copied it over, started playing it. And man, that game holds up so well. I would say that holds up way better than any other Metal Gear Solid.
Really?
It's well, first of all, graphically, I think it benefits from being on the Vita because it's such a smaller screen, and the resolution is obviously not, of a PS1 game is not super great. PS1 games have weird textures. They're almost like paintings where like they use a lot of like lines and colors to suggest things. But then you get close and you're like, oh, Solid Snake definitely doesn't have a face. He has a bunch of gray dots on his head.
He totally does.
They're just like little tiny pixels. It's like all pixel textured. It's really weird.
Yeah. Right, and that's the PS1 in general. And so you got a lot of like just pixely textures, and so like that's not great. But like having that smaller screen is nicer. I think it stands out really well on that. And I think also what really helps this game is that it has a very distinct palette. There's very distinct colors in this game. And I think that just has really stood the test of time. And the gameplay is it's strict. It's very specific. And having played like later games and coming back to this one, you can see how it's specific. It's almost like Mario's jump. Like Mario jumps in a particular way. And that's kind of like Metal Gear Solid 1 where, the gameplay field is not super big. You don't have a lot of visibility. Most of the game is pretty much like an overhead view. It's like top down. It's full 3D, but it's a top down view. And so you have this visibility around you on the gameplay screen. Your radar gives you a little bit wider of a radius, but you're not really seeing it. You really just only got dots and lines to show, okay, here's a wall and here's where a soldier is. So that gives you a little bit wider radius, but not as much like specifics. And then if you actually want to get more specifics, if you want to use like first person view, you're vulnerable in first person view. You have to like get out of hiding and tap the button and look around, and you can't shoot in first person. You can't move in first person. So if you want to get more detail that you can't see on your screen or on your Soliton radar, you have to make yourself vulnerable. And the game's sort of built around these things. I mean, even in first person, when you're crawling, you're in first person. So if you're under something or crawling through an air duct, you have limited visibility. I don't even think you have your radar when you're crawling in some cases. When you're in like inside air ducts and stuff. So the game has like these strict gamey kind of rules for a game that's sort of like lauded for being cinematic and very story driven. There are very specific gamey things going on there that I really like.
Did you ever play Metal Gear 2?
I did.
The MSX game?
Metal Gear 2, no.
Yeah.
I did not. I didn't play Metal Gear or Metal Gear 2. I haven't played those.
Yeah, I played through those. I think they were released in Metal Gear Solid 3 on PS2.
And the Subsistence
yes.
version.
The Subsistence, yeah.
Yes, exactly. It's amazing to me. I mean, I played Metal Gear 2 well after I played the original Metal Gear Solid, but the gameplay is very similar. And you talk about Metal Gear Solid is a 3D game, but it's very much kind of a 2D playing field. You have the enemies right off screen and the radar and stuff, and it plays very similarly. And Metal Gear 2 is a game from like 1990. So it seems like they took that and they very much refined it, at least in terms of the gameplay. And then obviously they put cinematic stuff on top of that. But I think that plays a big part in why the gameplay works so well. Because it's a refinement of what they had done very well before.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it works really well. I think even like the story elements are very corny here, but there's like, I don't want to say restraint because it's definitely not restraint. It's only restraint because of the hardware. Kojima had access to better hardware. That would have been
Right.
cutscenes out the ass. But because of the hardware, there's definitely cutscenes, a lot of dialogue and all that. But and it's super corny, but it's far less so than later games. Later games got too up their own ass for my taste. It controls a little wonky. I feel like all Metal Gear Solid games control a bit weird.
They like every single one I played takes an adjustment period. For
Yes.
sure.
Yeah,
Totally.
absolutely. Not that you can't get the hang of it. It's just that like, oh, I didn't mean to press up against this wall or turn this way, or it's a little.
You have to learn how to work with the controllers.
Right.
You can't fight them, and you can't necessarily do what you think should be how they work.
Right, exactly. So adjusting to that is a bit, it's a little bit of a challenge, but still a great game. Holds up very, very well.
I have a confession to make.
Yeah.
I've never played the original. That's not true. I played it like once at a friend's house while spending the night. I've only played through the game in the Twin Snakes version.
That's not the same. I mean that's a good right because a lot of the stuff I'm talking about actually doesn't apply to that version.
Right.
Yeah,
it's a good version.
I've seen enough of the. I've seen the PlayStation one be played back in the day, but I've never got the full experience of the PlayStation version.
It is actually we'll be talking about the PlayStation one here a little bit later, but it's one of like maybe 5 games I actually care about on that system.
I totally agree.
That really just made it for me. It's an excellent game, and I really do feel like it stands the test of time.
Yeah, and I think the original version is significantly better than the GameCube version. I mean, I enjoy the GameCube version. Don't get me wrong, and I think there's a lot of issues with how they directed some of the cutscenes and stuff. But I think talking about the way the PlayStation does some of that, the textures and the color palette and stuff, that stuff really makes it work. You look at Metal Gear Solid on the PS1 and it doesn't look realistic by any means, but I think it still looks good. Especially if you play it on something like the Vita.
Yeah. But
I think that stuff that makes it really hold up well. Whereas if you look at a GameCube game 15 years later, maybe not so much. But I definitely recommend going back and checking out the PS1 version. I mean, granted, I haven't played it in probably 6 years, but I'd be eager to revisit it actually, because that was
and it's
not 6 whole years.
It's a good time. It's a 20th anniversary.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah. Time fucking flies, dude. I don't. This year, Metal Gear Solid, Pokemon, as far as being released in the U.S., and Ocarina of Time, 20th anniversaries.
Yeah.
Game Boy Color, 20th anniversary. Fucking bonkers. Like, I don't even know where the time went.
We're all so old.
We're all old. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Time marches on, and we're all going to be dead soon.
I remember the release of these things vividly. Like, I was a fully formed human being by that point. I wasn't an adult, but I mean, I was a conscious person. It's crazy.
I made my mom. I made.
I held her at gunpoint.
I got my Ocarina of Time gold cart from Sears of all places. They had like pre-order slips that you could fill out, and then I like filled it out and had my mom go pick it up for me, like while I was at school or whatever when it came out.
I pre-ordered mine at Funkoland, so I can get it. It cost me $75, and I got a T-shirt and a poster. It was so expensive. $75 in 1998 money, earning that on a paper out.
Yeah.
And then like my dad didn't want to take me to go get it after work.
What?
I was so he said he was gonna, like, he was like, yeah, I'll do that for you. And then the day came, he's like, nah, I want to go. And I'm like, what are you doing that's so important right now? Let's go. It's fucking Zelda.
No, this was like right after my mom, I think, married or at least was dating my now stepdad. So I'm pretty sure it was his money. So thanks, Mike.
No, mine was my money. Nobody was buying it for me. I just needed the ride.
Yeah, no, I got, like, as soon as I turned, like, 14-ish, and my mom was hooked up with this dude, he had some money, and all of a sudden my mom was buying me a bunch of stuff. And I was like, I've never gotten this much stuff in my whole entire fucking life. Because
nice.
She was, like, on her own before that, and we did not get a lot of things. So, it was good times. I, like, felt guilty, though. I had, like, guilt trips because of it. I remember... Christmas of '98. I'm pretty sure it was. Like, she asked me to make her list of some games. I was like, she said she'd give me 2 games, whatever she could find. So I made a list of probably like 8 N64 games. And I was like, any of these would be good. And then she fucking bought all of them, and I felt so bad. I was not happy about it in the slightest. I just felt bad. That's probably something I should tell my therapist.
How terrible to have all these wonderful possessions.
It felt so bad, though, because like, I was like, that's too much money. I think because I knew the value of money, I was like, it's just too much fucking money. And I was deceived.
Oh, he had stepdaddy warbucks.
I guess. Anyway, what were we talking about?
We're talking about Metal Gear Solid.
Metal Gear Solid.
And the last thing I'm playing is Destiny 2 Forsaken.
All right, I'm going to check out.
That's what is your ass about Destiny? I don't understand.
No, go ahead.
I wasn't gonna get this. I wasn't gonna, but I was weak. I traded in some games and got the code for it at GameStop, so it didn't really cost me anything. But Forsaken is Destiny's year 1 expansion. It's like a big expansion. Destiny does these big expansions at the annual mark, and it's not bad. Nathan Fillion's character dies, which I'm not. I think Nathan Fillion was like, nah, I ain't got time for this shit anymore. Which is why, because he's the most popular. He's like the only character that has any sense of personality. So I'm not sure why they did it. And it's, I was wondering how they do it like narratively, because the characters are the Guardians. Like they're immortal essentially. All that gamey stuff like respawning and regenerating health is all like as a narrative component to it. Your little robotic Navi, your ghost. Who is voiced by Nolan North now, they resurrect you. They resurrect and heal you.
They stole that from the old Phantasy Star games.
Was that what Mags did?
No. Before, like, Master System Genesis. I don't know if it was in the first one, but the Phantasy Star for 2 for sure.
Okay.
Like when you died, they would take your like DNA and clone you. So like every time you came back to life, you were basically a clone of yourself.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, in this case, I don't think you're not a clone. But yeah, no, I think that's really cool that those games had a narrative device. I like that. I mean, a lot of people aren't going to notice, but I think I thought it was kind of neat. So what happened was someone
no, it's neat.
A bad guy destroyed his ghost, which is not something typically can be done, but that's what happened in this case, and then he was killed. So you spend the single player, this quote-unquote single player, the story component of it, tracking down his killers. So it's like a bunch of like boss battles, because there's a whole bunch of them. And there's a new multiplayer mode called Gambit. This thing is nuts. Apparently they were looking at like puzzle games, like Puyo Puyo, to build Gambit. And the way Gambit works is that it's 2 teams of 4 players, and you are teleported to a map, and so is the opposing team. But they're identical maps, but they're 2 different maps. It's 2 different maps, and you have to fight waves of enemies. And when they die, they drop motes of darkness. You pick up these motes of darkness, and then you deposit them in a central bank. And for every stack of 5, so 5, 10, and 15, you summon a blocker to the other map. And so it's like garbage Puyos.
Yeah, it's garbage blocks. That's great.
It's super great. And so at 5, you summon a small bad guy, medium, and then large at 15. And when you die, you lose all the motes that you were carrying if you didn't bank them. So it's like this risk reward. Like, should I hold on to these until I have 15? I don't know, because if you die, they don't like blow out of your body. Your allies can't pick them up; they're gone. But the first team at 75 summons a primeval, a big giant enemy, and that summons on your side. And the first team to destroy their primeval wins, and it's best of 3. But it gets pretty interesting because at every 25 motes that your team banks, a portal opens, and you can go to the opposing team's map. And the enemies there can't hurt you. the other Guardians can, but the enemies can't. So then they don't know where you are. So now you're hunting them. And if you kill them, they drop their motes. And if they happen to be fighting a primeval, if you kill them, their death heals their primeval. So it ends up being trying to like bank these motes and fight this primeval while constantly invading each other's map to heal the primeval and fuck each other up. And I hope I explained it well enough because it's a little strange.
I got it.
Yeah, it's so good. It is one of the most creative multiplayer modes I've ever played.
That's definitely the most interesting shooter multiplayer mode I've heard of. I think
it's really clever. It's really good. It works really, really well. Overall, it's a pretty good expansion. I think Gambit, that multiplayer mode Gambit is the best part. They did a bunch of stuff that made the game more complicated because Destiny 2 simplified a lot of things, streamlined a lot of things from Destiny 1. And for me, like even a veteran player, I was like, oh, I love the simplicity here. Just one quick example is that you could take up all these small quests. They call them bounties. And you could go to the social space and go to all these different vendors and collect bounties. And the bounties would be like, get 20 melee kills or kill 15 Vex on Venus or whatever. Just these stupid piddly things. And you get a little bit of reward for it. Destiny 2 did away with collecting the homework assignments from all the vendors and then having to go back to the vendor to turn it in. If you just entered an activity and pulled up your ghost would tell you here are the today's activities, and if you completed them, you just got the reward. To me, that was so much simpler, far more elegant. For some reason, they went back to the old bounty system. I don't know why. I know someone who works at Bungie, Seth, and I know someone who works at Bungie, and he basically alluded to the fact that hardcore players like doing the busy work, I guess, because it makes them feel like they're doing something. I don't know. I think it's kind of irritating.
Yeah, that does not sound great.
I don't get. They did a lot. I'm not going to bog it down. I know you don't like hearing about Destiny, so I'm not going to bog it down. But
too late.
Too late. You've already passed the mark. There are other examples, but they did a bunch of stuff that just makes things more time consuming or more complicated. And I preferred the streamlined version of the game. That's just me. But all in all, not bad. I've been playing. I've been enjoying it overall. And that's what I've been playing.
Nice.
That was not that torturous, Seth, now was it?
It was kind of bad. I liked hearing about Gambit, though. Gambit mode sounded really cool.
That's most of what I talked about.
Yeah, so it was mostly okay, then.
Oh, okay. I got a mostly okay. All right. How about you?
I beat Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Nice.
After 200 million hours.
I know. I checked on you the other day. I checked your play history, and it said like 230 hours. I was like, fuck. What the fuck?
It's funny because I beat it. I was like right near the end after we recorded the last podcast. It was right before I flew out to Canada too, and I was playing it like when I should have been packing for Canada. I was like, I gotta beat Xenoblade instead. I was like up late, like trying to beat Xenoblade before I had to leave for 3 weeks and forget what the fuck was happening. But there's rare blades in the game, and you summon rare blades with core crystals. And there's 3 types of core crystals. There's like a common core crystal, rare core crystal, and legendary core crystal. And like the better the core crystal, the more chance you have of summoning a rare blade, which are like the story blades and they have side quests and everything. So I had all the rare blades in the game except for one. So when I got back home from Nova Scotia, I was trying to get this last rare blade, so I could get the last bit of the side quests and story quests and stuff like that. And I spent probably 4 hours farming legendary core crystals and opening them up until I finally unlocked this goddamn last blade that I needed. Because apparently when you're down to just one rare blade left, the chances of pulling it become extremely rare, like a 0.3% chance or something.
Why do they do that? That seems ridiculous.
I don't know, and it's not like they're trying to monetize the game in any way. It's not like you have to pay for these core crystals. The only way to get them is to fucking fight monsters and get them. So I looked up guides on the best way to get core crystals. I equipped all this different stuff on all my characters, and I was doing driver combos on certain monsters over and over again. So I was getting lots of them.
Didn't they just give away 15 of them?
One a minute. Yeah, they gave away 15, but literally it took me 300 of them to get this. So that 15 would have saved me 15 minutes of trying to farm these crystals. And I didn't even get the email. I registered the game and everything. Nintendo didn't send me shit. So thanks a lot.
They're like the
Nintendo.
weirdest items, like crispy milkshakes or something. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
I don't even know what any of that was, except for the legendary core crystals. And I almost I was down to 3. I was down to my last 3 legendary core crystals, and I was going to call it a night. And then I finally pulled that motherfucker, and it's like some common blade. I was like looking up. Nobody gets the last blade I need was Agate. Nobody gets Agate last. Nobody. Like I'm the only single person. It's not even one of the rare blades. You know what I'm saying? And then since I summoned her, I have not even wanted to fucking touch the game again.
I was going to ask if you got Torna.
It's coming in the mail today. It's probably at my doorstep now that we're recording.
Oh, you bought it you didn't buy the expansion pass?
No. So I didn't have the expansion pass, so the physical game comes with it. So
okay. So when you buy the physical version of Torna, you get the whole benefit of the expansion pass.
Yep, it comes with a code for the expansion pass that you could just.
So you just wanted a game case? Is that basically it?
No, because Torna itself is on the game card.
Wait, really? So it comes in a game. So what's on this game card? Is it just Torna?
Yeah, it's just the prequel story. So the prequel story is on the game card, and then it comes with a DLC code for the rest of the expansion.
Okay.
And then use in the first game,
and
the challenge mode and everything.
I see. And when you're playing Torna, you don't need anything from your primary file or whatever to play that.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Interesting.
It's pretty standalone.
That was my understanding, because it's in the past. It's like 500 years in the past.
Yeah, it's 500 years in the past. So, yeah, now I guess I'm not done with Xenoblade yet, because I got fucking Torna to look forward to.
With all the talk of it, I want to revisit it. I mean, I got other things that I'm playing, but, I did enjoy what I played of that game. Far less when it was like a tenth of what you played, but...
I mean, I was reading if you just want to play through the story mode, you could do it in like 60, 70 hours.
That's still a lot of hours.
Yeah, well, it's not 200.
Well, fair. Yeah, right. I think I'll revisit it at one point because I did enjoy it, but.
Well, I mean, Torna should stand alone on its own pretty well, and I hear the combat's even more fun in Torna, so you could just go right to that if you want, probably. And then, Chris, you've been playing Spider-Man?
I have been playing Spider-Man. Have you been playing Spider-Man?
I've been playing Spider-Man.
What a coincidence!
I like the part where he is a man, but also has spider powers.
He does definitely do that.
You should start talking about this, and I'll jump in on with stuff.
Sure.
As you go.
I really like this game. I think the best part about it, which is, I mean, if you've read any of the reviews or anything, is the swinging. Not just the swinging, but navigating the world. And I think the best thing about it is the way you can link all the moves together. You can be swinging and go into running along the wall and then launch yourself off and land on something and bounce right off of that, and you're constantly moving, and it never feels like you have to stop, which I think it's super cool, and that feels like how Spider-Man should feel.
I like the cornering on the walls that you could do by hitting circle when you're going around the corner, and it just flings around the corner, and then you could keep swinging.
That sounds a lot almost like Sunset Overdrive, because you were almost penalized for not moving.
I feel like the developer of Sunset Overdrive could make a really good Spider-Man game, given the chance.
Yeah, probably. They could probably do a great job. It's funny because I just bought Sunset Overdrive off Amazon, and it was the official Amazon sold one, and it was still a day one edition.
Nobody bought that game. It's so sad.
Yeah, it just came in the mail yesterday. It's day one edition. It was $10.
Yeah, I would like to play that, but I don't have an Xbox One, and I don't think I'm going to get one anytime soon.
Just have your roommate give you one like everybody else does.
But Spider-Man is super cool. I've spent more time just exploring the city and doing side missions and getting collectibles than I have doing the actual story. There's backpacks to find that'll have little references to Spider-Man's history. So you'll find a vial of sand from the Sandman, or a piece of Mysterio's helmet, or random there'll be an application to get an apartment that'll have little references to stuff that I recognize from the comics. So that stuff is super cool. Although maybe not as exciting for somebody who's not as big a fan as I am, because it's oh, you found a backpack, and I don't want to read all this shit.
Why does he only stick one thing in each
It's
backpack?
kind of weird that there's 60 backpacks scattered around this city, and they all have one random thing in it. But
Peter needs to learn how to use his backpacks better, man.
actually, in one of the backpacks, it'll tell you he won some kind of science award, and he got a lifetime supply of backpacks.
I got
So-
that. That was. It's actually two parts too, because in another one he says that he doesn't. No, I don't remember. I don't know. He said that he told people that he was buying something with some Fisk grant. I
Yeah,
don't know.
something
Never
like
mind.
that.
You're right.
You can swing around, and there's landmarks throughout the city that you can take pictures of, which sometimes it's real landmarks like the Empire State Building, or there are like Marvel landmarks like the Avengers Tower or Doctor Strange's Sanctum Sanctorum. Which is just fun. Like, I'm just enjoying, the mechanics of swinging around the city are fun, and then also actually finding the things I found are fun.
Yeah, there's lots of, like, even the Alias Detective
Mm-hmm.
Agency was there and stuff. I actually pointed my camera out at the Statue of Liberty and took a picture of it, and it was like one of 50 hidden landmarks. So I was like, oh, fuck, there's hidden ones? And I haven't found any others, but...
Yeah, I haven't found any hidden landmarks yet, but I've heard that there are some, and it's like, that is going to bother me if I don't find those.
Yeah, here's a hint. The Statue of Liberty is one of them.
Good to know. I'll have to look at that. And there's all kinds of other little missions you can do throughout the world. You can go and chase pigeons to try to catch them for some guy who's lost all his pigeons for some reason. There are Harry Osborn has little labs throughout the city that'll trigger missions, which are all pretty different. Sometimes it's swing through this smog, and you have to figure out exactly what chemical components are in it, which is a lame justification, but it's fun. So
There's like these stupid little puzzle games in the Oscorp
Yeah.
game that they make you do at the beginning of the game. And it's like there's two different ones. There's like ones where it's basically connecting circuits to get like an electrical flow going to someplace, and it gets a little more complicated. Like the electrical flow has to be like a plus minus whatever thing. And then there's another one where you line up like sliders, and you got to like make sure the little black lines match up with the lines on the slides. And they're so stupid, and I was so mad at them at first. And then, like, later on, I went back into the lab, and I was like, oh, there's no new ones yet. Because I just wanted to do... I was, like, tired of swinging around and fighting guys, and I just wanted to do stupid little brain teasers, and then there weren't any new ones available yet.
It's fun, too, because some of these different things will give you different, like, medals or tokens or something that you can use to unlock new costumes and new skill points and stuff like that. And I love unlocking the new costumes. A lot of them are like weird choices, obscure choices that I feel aren't super popular, and people are going to be like, what even is this? And they don't give you a lot of description about them or anything, like what issue it's from or what it was used for. But
this seems like a missed opportunity.
Basically, it just has the name.
Yeah, it has the name of it, and you see it, and it's like, oh, that's a weird looking costume. There's a few well known ones, like the Scarlet Spider that was big in the '90s is in there. The movie costumes are in there from Homecoming, but there's a lot of weird obscure
really
ones.
Good.
Yeah, I haven't gotten that one yet, and I keep seeing it on Twitter, and I'm like, oh, I need that.
As somebody who doesn't, I think it's the Secret Wars one. As somebody who doesn't like know a lot about the Spider-Man comics, why does Secret Wars Spider-Man have like a sleeveless hoodie on him?
Scarlet Spider has the sleeveless hoodie, you mean?
Was it? Oh, it was a Scarlet Spider. My bad. Why does Scarlet Spider have a sleeveless hoodie?
Because it was the '90s and it was cool or something. That was Spider-Man's clone, who for some reason had a red suit and wanted to differ. I don't know. It's dumb, but people love that costume, so that's why it's in there.
You broke him, Seth.
No, there. I cannot tell you what the justification for that is, but he is wearing literally just a red costume with white lenses and a hoodie, and also pouches on his ankles, and web shooters on the outside. I don't know why it is the way it is, because it was the '90s.
Are there pouches on his ankles? Is this Liefield's doing?
I mean, it might as well be. I don't think he designed it, but that was the era that we were living in when that happened.
Yeah, pouches on.
And then they brought Ben Reilly back last year, and now there's a Scarlet Spider comic where he's wearing the hoodie again, even though it is the year 2018. I don't know, Seth. It doesn't make any sense, but people love it.
All right.
the story and the combat and stuff is the combat is very Arkham. Do you agree, Seth?
It's so Arkham.
It is like exactly Arkham.
Because when I started playing, I was like trying to hit some of the Arkham buttons.
Mm-hmm.
I kept trying to counter, because like usually when I see the flashing, I would try to counter with Batman most of the time, so I'd hit triangle to counter, but then that was not doing the right things, and I kept getting hit at first because I was trying to hit the Arkham buttons.
Right. Yeah, the button layout is different,
but
but the mechanics are very much the same. Where it's like you press
Yep.
you press square to punch these dudes, and then you press triangle to zip over to the next guy, and it's good. I love the combo system and all that, but it is very much trying to do exactly the same thing Arkham did, which was my big fear going into this game. You know, you look at a lot of the trailers and stuff, and it looks like that's a lot of what it is. And I think that's why I love the swinging so much, because it feels different and it feels like Spider-Man.
Even like when you're doing stealth stuff, like the ledge takedowns and stuff, or it's Batman.
It is exactly the same, yeah.
There's air combos though.
That's true.
I mean, they definitely got the Spidey thing in there. I mean, to be fair, I feel like the Batman game sort of took a little bit of Spider-Man's juice, like when he's like doing the upside down Spider-Man pose takedowns and stuff in the Arkham games. I was like, I hit Spider-Man, but now since those Arkham games been out so much now, like Batman's owning that upside down takedown.
That's the thing. Like, I don't think it's badly done here. I think, I enjoy the combat, and I'm having a lot of fun playing the game, and I rave about this swinging around the city and exploring, but the combat is fun, but it's so hard to separate after playing 3 or 4 of those Arkham games. It feels so much like that. I try to do stuff.
I try to go for combos that I can't do in Arkham. Like, one of my favorite things I do is air launch them and then do like the air throw where you spin them around, slam back on the ground, and then once they're on the ground, I shoot a bunch of web and then web them to the ground so that they're stuck.
Yeah, I like trying to do the different moves. You can knock them into the air, and then you can swing kick into them, and then you can use your webs to web them to the wall. So if you just do the punches and then zip to the next guy, you can do that, and it feels very much like Arkham. But it is good that they have these moves that feel distinctly Spider-Man. One of the interesting things I find about this game is that they're really playing up like the everyman kind of poor side of Peter Parker. In the first act, loves. He gets evicted from his apartment and has to sleep at the homeless shelter where his Aunt May works. And yet, a lot of the game you're getting these advanced suits and you're developing new tech to use against guys, and it's like, this seems kind of like this does not mesh well together.
He doesn't know how to get paid for the stuff he does.
I guess, but I mean, I shouldn't complain about it. I read the comics and I've seen this stuff before, but I don't know. It seems like a little counterintuitive, but it's fun. The mechanics are fun, and that's really what matters. So, how far into the game are you as far as the story?
I just had past the MJ stuff, and then I just beat up Sandman.
Okay, you're further than me then.
So I'm before you. I wasn't sleeping in any homeless shelter yet. I haven't been evicted yet.
Did I even fight Sandman?
I mean, not Sandman, Shockwave.
Oh, Shocker. Yeah.
I don't
Okay.
know what. I don't. Shocker. Did I say Shockwave?
You did say Shockwave.
Ah, God, Silk the Shocker. Yeah, no, I beat up Shocker, and then that's as far as I know.
Okay. Yeah, I'm into I got the trophy for finishing the first act, and they do some kind of heavy stuff with the story, which is interesting and maybe not what I expected from this superhero game. But I guess they're kind of Arkham inspired, and they're trying to do something a little darker at times. But it's not like a dark game. It feels fun. It has the Spider-Man tone to it, which I think is good. So
yeah. Oh my God! Speaking of the fucking Spider-Man tone, I cannot get this really early in the game. Like when you first start, like the opening whole thing that gets you all pumped up for the game. Some guy tries to shoot you with a rocket launcher, and then another guy tries to shoot you with a rocket launcher, and they beat them up. Then you beat another guy, and then a third guy tries to shoot you with a rocket launcher, and then Peter goes, "What is this, National Rocket Launcher Day?" And it makes no fucking sense, and it made me laugh because it was so stupid, and it's just stuck in my head. Just National Rocket Launcher Day will not leave me alone. I can't get it out. But yeah, no, it's super good. The character, like the human characters, looks like so good. Like I was not expecting to like the look of Spider-Man or Peter Parker and Mary Jane and Aunt May and stuff, but they fucking put work into those. And you play as them, like you play as Mary Jane. in at least one part that I did, and you play as Peter when you're going through different buildings and stuff. I do not like the way the city looks at nighttime. It looks kind of like blandish to me at night.
Yeah.
During the day, it's so pretty. Like there's like this really good glow to it, and like you can see all the buildings reflecting off all the other glass buildings and stuff, and it's really pretty. But when it turns nighttime parts, I was not into it. I don't know. It just looked dull. It looked dull. Like it should be like more lights and brighter and stuff. I don't know. It just looked kind of dullish.
I think that's one of the reasons they went with the version of the costume they went with in this game, where it has the big white spider on it. It gives it more like contrast when you're swinging around, and especially at night, like it can be kind of easy to, you just don't get much detail in the costume. Depending on which costume you're wearing. So. I think at night that standard costume actually works really well because it has so much contrast and detail to it.
See, also early on in the game, I feel like the police missions that you can help out with just come at you way too fucking hard. Like it's like, stop this car, now there's a robbery, now stop another car and stuff like that. And like at first I was like, oh cool, there's like different things. But like those just kept coming at me like without a break. Like I was expecting more of a space, and then it feels like once I did 5 out of 5 of them in whatever area, then they just like stopped completely, and it was very weirdly paced as far as those goes. I did like how they could like change between like it starts off with a car crash, and then they'll be like, oh, those guys were still over there, and then it goes from a car crash scene to a car chase and stuff like that. And just the way that they did like the gameplay, but still cinematic with the stuff like the car chases is like really, really good. Like chasing down a fucking car as Spider-Man is badass, and they like nailed that perfectly. But you're just going to be doing it like fucking 20 times.
That's the thing. I think they do it really well, especially early on. But once you've done it a few times, a lot of them, like if you do that, you chase the car down mission, it plays out almost the exact same way, especially with like the QTEs at the end, where you'll lean off the side of the car and the guy will try to shoot you out the window, and you press the square button and he'll like jump out and he'll dive through the car, and it does basically the exact same animation every time, and you could vary it up a little bit. Like, come on.
There's 2 whole car stopping animations. There's one where he like steps on the hood and like does the webs to stop it, and there's another one where he just catches the entire car. But speaking of animation variances, I like that there's some of them have a lot, like the ledge takedowns. There's like ones where you'll just web them up. There's ones where you like yank them up and hit their head into the
I love
the
that
rebar.
one.
And there's like ones where I don't know, there's like a few different like animation variances for a lot of different things, which I think is a really cool touch.
Yeah, definitely.
And I like that. And the last thing I want to say is I bought the CE with the statue in it, and the first thing that like there's a thing when you open the box that says like, don't open this until you complete the main story mode of the game. But the game and stuff is underneath that thing, so you have to like open it further. So I like open it further, and then I was like, oh, there's probably like blocked or something underneath. So I take the game case out. It's like goes the warning not to open it, which you have to because the fucking thing's in there. And then like the art book is and then the game. And then once you lift the game up, the fucking statue's in a see-through plastic, so you can see the statue. If you're grabbing the game, you can see the statue. There's no way to not look at it. I guess you could like close your eyes and feel around for it, but it seemed a very, very oddly prepared box for a statue that I guess they consider it of a spoiler in it. Here's a spoiler. It's Dr. Octopus, I'm pretty sure. Like in the very first 5 seconds of the game, you work for Dr. fucking Octavius, so you know Dr. Octopus is coming.
Yeah. Which is an interesting choice. I mean, they've never really played up the relationship between them, but I think it works. It seems like they're doing a good job of it here. I mean, you kind of figure Dr. Octopus is coming at some point, whether it's in this game or they're setting up in a sequel.
Yeah, I mean,
but it's cool. It's cool that they have this relationship and the character building with Dr. Octavius. I mean, I'm through the first act and nothing has happened where he becomes Dr. Octopus or anything. So
they make you think it's going to happen really early on.
Right. There's definitely a sequence where it's like, oh, this is the moment, but it.
Yeah, but then they pull away from that. And I'm like, you teases. I'm assuming it's coming. Yeah. Anything else?
No, I think it's really good, and I'm looking forward to playing more of it.
Yeah, no, I'm playing some more tonight.
Cool. That is the only thing I have played.
Oh, well. That was a good long talk. Craig checked out, just like I do when he starts talking about Forsaken.
No, I'm here. I'm
whatever,
listening.
Destiny.
The Forsaken King, Destiny. I think I just
listen. Destiny 1 was the Taken King. This is just
know.
Forsaken.
Sort of.
It's Forsaken 64.
The future is Forsaken. I got to be honest. From an outsider, there are things about Spider-Man that look modern, like moving around, for instance, like web slinging. But a lot of it seems like it could have existed like 10 years ago.
I mean, just the budget that they gameplay wise, for sure.
Yeah, that's really
budget wise, presentation wise, definitely not.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. Yeah, that's basically what, like gameplay wise, it looks like something that could have existed on the PS3 in 2008.
Yeah, I think you're pretty much right.
But presentation wise, I saw a couple. I saw like there's I just saw like a video of like a cutscene where Peter Parker is, I don't know if he's in Mary Jane's apartment, and he gets changed and he goes to jump out the window in a Spider-Man costume. He's like, "Did you just leave your clothes in the kitchen?"
And then he goes and takes them. Yeah, I just finished that part.
Yeah, it was good. It was well written. It was well acted. It was funny. Yeah, no, the just some of the brief glimpses of the story I've seen have been pretty good. But the gameplay just it looks kind of old.
I mean, I'm not blown away by the game. It's a really solid game. It's not like the best game ever or anything like that, but it's just a solid, fun game.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think the web swinging is the most, definitely the strongest part of the gameplay, but also it feels fresh and new. You know, it doesn't feel like a lot of games that are out there, at least is how you traverse the world. And the combat and stuff is, I don't want to say uninspired, but it doesn't feel quite as fresh. You know, it definitely feels like something you've done before.
Sure.
Maybe quite a while ago.
And just to be fair, like, the Spider-Man IP, as far as video games go, have been in, like, poverty town since, like, Spider-Man 2 on PS2.
You know, I think that's what it is. It kind of the praise for this game, and I'm not ragging on the game at all. Like, I'm not trying to ruin your party here. To be clear, it kind of reminds me a little bit of of Doom 2016, where I played it and I'm like, yeah, this is all right, but like I guess what I experienced just did not at all match the enthusiasm that I saw for it. And someone, said to me that it's like, well, this has been in development hell, and it's been a little while since we played a good Doom game. So the fact that this is, good at all is reason to celebrate. And that's fair. It's just, I was expecting something much more. And I guess having not played Spider-Man, just seeing stuff secondhand, I just couldn't find where that enthusiasm was coming from. But that might be it. It's like, well, we just haven't had a good Spider-Man game in a while.
Yeah, no, it's just a really, really good, polished Spider-Man game.
Absolutely, that's fair.
Yeah, I mean,
that does
even as a big
that does like good stories and cutscenes and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, the cutscenes and the story are really good, and I think the swinging is really good, and the combat and stuff is, like I said, it's good, but it's less inspired, and it maybe doesn't feel quite so modern.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like anything new or exciting as far as that goes.
And I mean, speaking as a Spider-Man fan, I haven't bought a Spider-Man game since I think probably Shattered Dimensions, which was 6 or 7 years ago at this point. And there have been several movie
Spider-Man
games.
then?
There was Edge of
really?
Time, and then there were, I think, 2 movie games that I just totally skipped.
Jesus Christ! Yeah,
So,
no one's paying attention to that, huh?
People being excited about a Spider-Man game. Like, I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. It's not like I'm going out and buying every single game. So. That's not to say this is, the second coming or anything, but it's a really strong game that we haven't seen in quite a while for Spider-Man. So
cool.
That's all I got.
That's it.
I think it's time for some news.
Let's talk about some news. We got this PlayStation Classic coming.
What? That's a cool original idea by Sony.
Yeah. Who would have thought? You could release a retro console with some old games on it in a smaller form factor, and people will buy that.
That's neat.
Yeah. Somebody should have thought of this
games
sooner.
Are on it?
I think they said it's going to have 20 games. They've announced only a few of them. Final Fantasy VII, which is probably the biggest one. Jumping Flash, Ridge Racer Type 4, Tekken 3, and Wild Arms. between $100, and it comes with non-DualShock controllers, 2 of them, which is an interesting choice. I think
That's how you know it's classic.
Yeah,
And how much does this retail for? Chris?
$100.
That's kind of
That
pricey.
seems steep to me.
That doesn't seem, it doesn't really seem steep to me. It kind of tracks with Nintendo systems. I mean, the NES was, 60? The SNES was 80. Generally, generationally, that seems to track. You get 20 PS1 games and then 2 controllers, even if they're not DualShock. $100, I mean, it seems steep, but it depends on how you value these things. Like if you're looking at it as a kind of curio, and you're not really going to actually sit down and play the game, sure, $100 is a lot, But if you're actually going to sit down and actually take the time to play Final Fantasy VII or play Wild Arms or whatever the fuck, because they're accepting pre-orders, we're not telling you what's fucking on it, which is fucking asinine. But Metal Gear Solid's on there. If you actually sit down and play the Metal Gear Solid or whatever, it actually is a good value.
I just don't know if it's in that in that what's the word? Oh my god! I was just,
like impulse buy, gotta have it.
Impulse purchase.
Yeah,
I think I'm getting dementia, dude.
Yeah, it's now you're just getting old. No, I agree. I mean, it is definitely something that you have to calculate a little bit. But I mean, it's what is that, like $5 a game? And that's just thinking about the game, not the hardware. So I don't know. It seems pretty fair. I mean, honestly, I expect Nintendo to do an N64 Classic with fewer games. It's not going to have 20. I fully expect.
Why won't it have 20?
Because it's fucking Nintendo.
I mean, there's 20 N64 games you could throw on
there.
But can we throw the rare games on there?
Castlevania Legacy of Darkness, just to round it out.
I feel like Microsoft would be interested in licensing out some rare games.
They might. I mean, but my point being is, what did the NES have? What did that have? 50?
30.
30. And then the Super Nintendo had 20. This N60.
21.
That's right. 20 plus 1. You're absolutely right. It did have that. I don't see the N64 having 20 games and being a good price point, because it's going to have it's going to have 2 of those N64 controllers, and those are complicated as shit. It's more complicated than the DualShock or the Super Nintendo or any of that. It's going to have 2 of those, and it's going to have, I think, at most 15, but probably 10 or 12 games on it.
That I've opened up N64 controllers to change out analog sticks, and they are not complicated inside of there.
But there's a lot more. There's a lot more parts. It's a lot more pieces.
It's a Super Nintendo controller with like an analog stick in it, basically.
Right, but they're bigger. There's more plastic. That analog stick has a lot of bits in it.
Also, I'm assuming the PlayStation Classic is going to be licensing more games from third parties than anything on Nintendo's systems would be, so that probably would inflate the cost as well.
Well, I mean, it's sort of a toss up, right? I mean, what costs more, licensing games or the fact that Nintendo's games carry more value? Because I'm going to be fucking frank with you. Jumping Flash is a fun game, but who the fuck is going to value that over Super Mario 64? Fucking no one.
No. But I mean, they'll be remiss if they're not going to have like, Metal Gear Solid and Tomb Raider and shit like that on.
Right. System. No, I agree. I mean, I think $100. It depends. Again, it depends on how you value games. If you're just looking to fuck off with these games, play them for an hour or so, this is not for you. You're not going to drop $100 on this. But if you're actually going to take the time to play the games, it's a very fair price if you want to play the games. Like I said earlier, the only games I care about on PS1 are Metal Gear Solid, Star Ocean: The Second Story. Fuck me, that's all I can think of off the top of my head. Like I just don't. I know there's a couple more, but
I like the Oddworld games, and I like the couple of the Mega Man X games. And Mega Man Legends is really good.
I mean, those are all right. They're not exclusive to PS1 at this point, but they're all right. They don't really do anything. They don't really it's not a lasting. They didn't really have a lasting impact on me, and they're certainly not games I want to return to.
Well, you're stupid.
Ape Escape, that's one. I love Ape Escape.
I wonder if they're gonna bother with the Crash games and Spyro games, since those just got remasters.
Well, even if they just do the first one, just to put them on. Yeah, no, you're right. I agree with that. But I mean, just putting the first of each of those games, I feel like you'd be remiss not to have at least the first one of those games on there.
Yeah, they're so highly associated with that system. I mean, they'll probably do similar to what Nintendo did with their classic systems, where they have one game from that franchise. Like on the Super NES had Mega Man X1, I think, and no other ones, and Donkey Kong Country and no other ones. So it's not unheard of.
And Super C on the NES for some
That's
reason,
right.
because everyone loves Super C and not Contra.
That's a weird thing, man. Yeah, I'm kind of with you as far as, not having a huge affinity for a ton of games on the PlayStation Classic, and maybe that's why I look at it and I'm like, $100, really? Because there's just not a lot of games that I have a huge affinity for on the PlayStation.
But that's if my prediction's right, and that the N64 Classic is $100 with say 12 games, you're gonna buy that.
Sure will.
But that's because we value that differently. I mean, the PS1 just isn't there. There's a few games on it I like. I recognize it as a system that really reached out to a broader audience than what video games were targeting at that point. Mm-hmm. I recognize its place in history. I just at the end of the day, really just don't give a shit about it, though.
That's generally how I feel. I mean, there are a couple games on the PlayStation that I love. I mean, I love the original Metal Gear Solid. I think Castlevania Symphony of the Night is fantastic.
That's the other one.
That game needs to be on there for sure.
Symphony of the Night's the other. So it's like 4 games that I care about.
And the Tony Hawk games I loved back then too.
And
not
Dreamcast
PlayStation exclusive. Obviously, they were on other systems, but that's where I played them. But there's only a few of them that I loved, and I feel like by the time I came to the PlayStation, I'd had the N64, and the Dreamcast was coming out, and like it was a little long in the tooth by the time I got there. So I don't have the nostalgia for it, and I wasn't even a huge fan of it at the time. So I'd be interested to see what the rest of the list is, but not super pumped yet.
Speaking of the Dreamcast, speaking of Sega in general, after Sony announced this, Sega's like, oh, yeah, our Genesis Mini, that's coming out later. We're delaying it. I think they realized that, with Sony stepping into this mini console ring, that they'd have to step up their game. They tossed out the company that was doing it, which is At Games, which did their last 6 mini consoles. And at this point, I don't know what the fuck Sega's doing. Who wants another Genesis mini console? Who's asking for that? You've done a half dozen of them.
Bridges.
Move forward.
I mean, it was all the same thing with just like different packaging and maybe slightly different games, right?
I just, to me, I mean, chronologically, you'd say they do the Saturn next, but I don't think the Saturn has the mind share to really move.
No, literally nobody in the U.S. cares about Saturn.
I don't think. I mean, I could be interested in a mini Saturn depending on what's on it. I could be, but that's a big if. But a mini.
That's you.
Right.
Like it's not going to sell.
But even me,
just like the Saturn.
But even me,
like
that's
Saturn.
a big. It's still a big if. But like a mini Dreamcast, I think that would sell. That would sell to people like us, who enjoy the system, and it sell to a new audience who's heard of this mythological system and never got a chance to enjoy it. And they're just, to me, it's mind-boggling. I mean, obviously I want one, which is why I'm frustrated by it, but just to me, it just seems like they're leaving money on the table.
Yeah,
No, we'll just do a 7th Genesis system. Dumb fucks. Our much-anticipated Genesis console is delayed into 2019. Woo. Well, man, I'm really disappointed to no one.
I'm just trying to think of how would the controllers just have a VMU glued into them or something?
That's a good. Yeah, I don't know how they do the VMU. That'd be a little strange. I mean, with the N64 Mini, you also have to think about how are they going to do the rumble pack or the memory pack or whatever. The controller pack actually is what it's called.
And then a few of the big Dreamcast games had a lot of online stuff, which is another.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be I don't know how you'd have to. Maybe you wouldn't have PSO on there, Maybe Choo Choo Rocket would just be local multiplayer. I couldn't tell you. There are ways to figure that out, and I think that even if you had online, it wouldn't have to be that. Was that all peer-to-peer? I mean, you don't need... They weren't maintaining servers. When I had Dreamcast, my ISP on that was AT&T WorldNet. It wasn't even Sega.
That's what I was doing. I was connecting through AT&T.
Well, that was included in the box initially.
Oh no, I was Earthlink.
Earthlink, yeah. No, they had when it first launched, there was AT&T was the preferred.
Yeah,
because they didn't use AOL. I got AOL, and they're like, "No, we don't do AOL." I'm like, the world's biggest ISP right now. You don't use. Cool, thanks, Sega.
But I mean, the cool thing about those was you just need like login information from somebody. So I was just using a family member who didn't even live with me, like Earthlink login information and phone number, because they would just dial into the ISP. So.
Right, it wasn't an online service of what they think, how we think about it now. I'm not sure what sort of technical re-rigging it would require, but if you could if it could connect to your Wi-Fi, or just you can plug in an Ethernet cable, you don't need PSN. This doesn't need PSN or Xbox Live. It just, I think it's like if it's purely peer-to-peer.
I'm also just trying to think, because one of the first things that my girlfriend asked when I told her about the PlayStation Mini was like if Crash Team Racing would be on there, and if Tony Hawk would be in there, and then I just like laughed at Tony Hawk, because that's like screwed like 40 ways sideways from different licenses that are never going to come together again. So, I mean, people are going to be bummed that there's not going to be Tony Hawk on this PlayStation.
What are you talking about? Like the music?
Just the music, the writers. Activision doesn't have the Tony Hawk license anymore.
Oh, really? Does anyone own that?
I don't think so.
No, Tony's been saying that he's might be working with some other companies on something, but right now nobody has the Tony Hawk license. Like Activision might own the Pro Skater license, so I think they could do like a Pro Skater game with literally none of the licenses in it. But
I would be fine with that, because who cares? I didn't play the game because I knew who Tony Hawk was. I didn't know who he was at the time.
Pro Skater featuring Mr. Dream.
But just thinking about God damn it.
That was good. That was excellent.
But just thinking about licenses, like even like big Dreamcast games, like they might get Crazy Taxi on there, but are they going to like want to pay to get Bad Religion and Offspring on there again?
Well, they already have re-releases of those that didn't have that music.
Yeah, so, and then same with Jet Set Radio. Are they going to have like Rob Zombie and Cold on there again?
We can only hope not.
And stuff, Jurassic 5 and stuff like that. Like, I don't know if it's going to be quite the same experience with different stuff.
Nah, that's a fair point. I don't know. That's not for me to worry about. I mean, are they going to release an N64 classic console without GoldenEye?
Yeah.
They probably will, actually. But like, that's the thing. Like, that's you're going to find some disappointment in this no matter what you do. I think that they can strip some of the online stuff from some of these games and just do local and rip out the VMU shit, because who fucking cares?
But like with Jet Set Radio, even a lot of the Japanese music is licensed and isn't even like included on the soundtracks and stuff they sold.
Yeah, some of it was like Guitar Vader was noticeably absent from that stuff, but
yeah, and like Bream or whatever. I don't even. Maybe that was the name of one of the songs. I don't know. There's a few different songs that just aren't happening. And I just feel like that's like an integral part to the
I agree. That's their problem to work out. And
fuck me if I'm going to play Crazy Taxi and not listen to Bad Religion, because that's what even got me into listening to Bad Religion in the first place.
Yeah, me too, actually.
So,
the same 4 fucking songs over and over again in that game.
I knew all those songs, man.
There's only 4 of them. There's 2 Bad Religion and 2 Offspring songs in that game. That's it. That entire game.
There is also another Bad Religion song in the credits, so that's 3.
Oh, okay. I didn't. What's in the credits? Is it also from Gray Race?
No, it's from The Process of Belief.
No, that came out after.
Later. No, it's Stranger Than Fictions from the Stranger
is it really?
Fiction.
No kidding. That's another good album, too.
Those two are really good. Yeah, so that's 3. But anyway, my point being that, like, yeah, if they release these, it's going to be
I feel like they can figure something out. Like, who the fuck is champing at the bit to listen to fucking Offspring's classic tracks from X-Nay on the Ombre? Fucking no one. I feel like those guys would jump at the chance to pay their fucking rent.
And then, like, Sonic Adventure 2, what are we going to do when Sonic's not wearing soaps anymore? I'm being facetious on that one because nobody cares about that licensing. But still, there's different things. They'll strip them out, I
I feel like they could strip those out. I mean, the music, you're right. I feel like the music is an integral part to Tony Hawk, to Jet Set Radio. Yeah, I agree. But like the online stuff, I would prefer if they found a cost-effective way to work that in. But if I got to play PSO locally, like that's not a big deal.
Did the Dreamcast version have local for PSO?
Fairly certain it did.
I'm trying to remember because I remember the GameCube version definitely did.
The GameCube version definitely did, yeah.
Maybe the GameCube was 4 players local, and the Dreamcast.
Yeah, now I can't remember. Now you're making me think I got false memories or something. I'm conflating with the GameCube one.
I played both a lot.
Right,
so.
me too. So I don't remember. But I mean, I played a lot of those games online. But I mean, a lot of them hold up as like local party games. I feel like you can play PSO locally, and that would be fun. I feel like Ooga Booga and Outrigger and Quake 3 Arena.
Alien Front Online.
That game sucks.
All right. I'm in on it as long as they put on Seaman and include a microphone.
I think next episode we should talk about like what games we want to see in an N64 Classic.
All right,
Let's do that.
All right. Anyway, but you know what? We spent about 20 minutes talking about this one news item. What else we got?
Just burn through these ones.
We got loot boxes. Fucking loot boxes.
What happened with the loot boxes?
A bunch of gambling regulators are grouping up to talk about loot boxes. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't play games with
European
loot
countries
boxes.
too.
What do you guys think?
Yeah, Craig, Mr. Overwatch.
Well, it's easy for me to go like I don't give a fuck because I don't really have much of like an addictive personality. Like I can buy loot boxes because I want to buy them, and then I bought a bunch of Overwatch ones, but I haven't paid for any in over a year, I think. So it's easy for me to go like, who cares? Because I can walk away from them. It doesn't bother me. But the more and more I read about it, the more and more I feel like this is a form of gambling. You know, people try to say it's not gambling because you don't get anything of monetary value, but you're getting something of value. It has value, otherwise people wouldn't pony up real money for it. And honestly, I have no sympathy for these publishers. The ESA and these publishers were pushing back, saying, "No, we don't. This is not gambling. We don't need to hear this." And I think for me, like a nice middle ground would have been, some sort of clearly worded descriptor on the back of the game case, and then on the purchase screen or on the redemption screen in the game, they give you clearly stated odds. That
I don't know why they just fucking go back to selling things where you know what you're getting. Go back to stores.
It tends to be expensive, and I don't know why they justify it that way. There are a few games where you can buy things outright, and in my experience, that's been pricey.
Lower the prices.
Well, I agree. I don't know why the prices are so high on these things. Honestly, I mean, this might come back to like why are games so expensive so inexpensive in the first place? We're trained to think that $60 is that's it. Like that's the price of a game, and for a lot of folks, mainly because the U.S. economy sucks for the middle class, it feels like $60 is a lot for a game. But that's been the same price for a long time now.
Yeah.
And there comes a point where that's got to go up. These giant-ass games, all this shit in it, they got to recoup that money somehow. Loot boxes fucking suck, but you don't want to pay more than $60. Something's got to give.
A Final Fantasy 15, I'm pretty sure. I remember looking through their store page. They were selling like all sorts of different cosmetic shit. Like crazy amounts. It was all 99 cents each, though.
That's weird. Yeah, I guess that's the only example. I mean, I'm thinking of like Titanfall did all the stuff that people wanted from like a big budget AAA release, and then no one fucking bought it. So fuck you all for not buying Titanfall 2. That's just that's my every episode I got to tell people to fuck off for not buying that game. But like if you wanted like some of like the skins and stuff, they were like $5 a pop. They're expensive, and I'm trying to think of like crazy. Assassin's Creed Origins had weapons that you could buy with premium currency, and then you paid cash for the premium currency, and those were kind of pricey too. I mean, those were a few bucks. There's no loot. Well, there's a loot box in the game, but you buy that with in-game currency that you don't pay money for. So I don't know why you would use that. I don't know why you would even bother with that when you could just get exactly what you're looking for like $3. But yeah, in my experience, I mean, this stuff costs a few bucks, and I don't know who's going to pony up for that.
Just fucking make a bunch of things, drop the prices on, and people will buy them more. You won't have to deal with loot boxes anymore. You get your fucking money.
But
it won't be as lucrative though. Right now, I know these fucking publishers are rolling in loot box money though. They are making far beyond the budget that they need to make these games.
But that's also the thing. Well, I mean, that's capitalism for you. I mean, that's let's.
Yeah, I mean that's fine, but it's shitty because they're preying on people. With
right, and that's my problem with it. And they didn't want to even meet anyone halfway. They didn't want to put a descriptor on the box. They didn't want to disclose the odds. So now, the state is going to come after you.
Governments are.
I have no sympathy for them. That's how this is supposed to work.
I was hilarious to me when 2K was like asking Belgium fans to ask their government to allow loot boxes. I'm like, get fucked, 2K.
Right.
You dug this hole yourselves, man. You guys are just doing. I mean, I was reading about the fucking loot boxes and stuff and microtransactions in NBA 2K19, and everybody's saying it's like the worst shit that they've ever seen in any game either. Not that I'm interested in a basketball game in the slightest, but just reading about the practices in it and practices in the game is ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
I only play a couple games of them. I play obviously some of the free to play games like Paladins. Poor man's Overwatch has it. I ignore them. They're expensive. They're very expensive, and you only get like one item from a loot box. You got to pay like $5, and you get one item, and it could be like a fucking spray, and it's just not worth it to me. But Overwatch obviously has them, and sometimes I put down money for them, but I have not recently. Destiny has them, but they're kind of in your face because each time you level up, you get one. So then you have to go to the vendor who sells them for real money to open it. So it's kind of in your face, but I don't engage with it. Other than that, I don't really bother with this. I don't find it that difficult to ignore it. So it's not an issue for me, but I would rather they just weren't in games. If someone asked me, like, do you want these in games or not? I'd say no, I don't.
Yeah, it's definitely a no. Publishers could figure out a way to make up the cost of these games.
Well, and I'm sure they can. Like, I was looking at, there was some colors, for Super Smash Brothers. Super Smash Brothers used to have like just different colors for characters, but it looks like Ultimate has like all like these complex different costumes that would normally be in a loot box from another big publisher. And I'm like, well, Nintendo can do it. They got like 80 fucking characters in this game, and they all have different costumes, presumably for free. They can do it. Why can't any? I mean, I know why nobody else wants to do it, because they're making money hand over fist. But like things like Splatoon and ARMS get all like these content updates for free. I'm sure Smash will too. It's really just the money. I'm sure they're doing all right without it, but they're making even more.
I mean, it's not like Nintendo's free from this. They're going hard on it on the mobile space.
Well, I feel like mobile is its own thing. That's fair
agree.
and that's right. And I think mobile's a bit. You expect that.
I'm fine with it being there because I care very little about most mobile games. So if that's where publishers want to do it, that's cool. I stopped playing Animal Crossing Pocket Camp because they added.
Oh, it was aggravating. That game was such a no. Yeah, I stopped playing it too.
Yeah, they added the fortune cookies into it, which are loot boxes, and and that just pulled me right out of the game. I didn't even want to deal with it anymore. What else?
Kingdoms of Amalur has been bought by THQ Nordic, and a bunch of other stuff from 38 Studios since they went under.
I remember Craig loved this game, so this must be.
Yeah, I added this. This game is so fucking good, though. Like, but here's the part that sucks: is that THQ Nordic purchased the, I think like the assets and the IP for Kingdoms of Amalur, but specifically the game Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning. EA still owns the rights to that. So
is that the one made by the Scam Studio,
yes.
by the baseball player?
Yep.
Okay.
Right. So they would have to work something out with like EA if they wanted to re-release that game, and I hope that they do, because that game is fantastic. That is, I mean, it's a big open world game that has just the combat is good. It's like action based, like something you would see in like God of War, or Bayonetta, or Devil May Cry or something like that. It's very action based combat versus Skyrim's Rock'em Sock'em robots. It just has a very unique fantasy world. Draws on some of the standard elements of like high fantasy, but just builds its own stuff out of that. And just a really good, clever game that unfortunately is tied to a scam studio.
Hey, yeah. But might get sequels. Won't get a re-release from THQ though.
It could. EA might go like, okay, well, you do all the stuff, you do all the work, and then cut us a check, and we'll be fine with that.
Oh, I guess like those. Tri-Ace has been doing a bunch of remasters of their RPGs from different studios, like Sega and Square Enix and everything, and those companies seem to be fine with just Tri-Ace doing all the work and releasing.
Right. For EA, it's just free, it's free money. Remasters. They're not going to do anything with it, and if THQ wants to do all the heavy lifting and cut them a check, I'm sure they'll let them.
All right.
That'd be cool. And we have a bunch of Nintendo stuff. There was a big Nintendo Direct where they talked about some games, and they talked about the new Nintendo Switch Online service, which has since launched.
Let's talk about the games first.
Yeah. They opened with a trailer for Luigi's Mansion 3 coming to Switch next year. Yeah. I'm excited for this. I love the first Luigi's Mansion. The second one was pretty good. But I yelled "holy shit" when this happened. I'm excited. I figured this was just a trailer for the remake for 3DS, but
well, that says something about how the game looks.
It didn't look
not
that
super
great.
Impressive, but
yeah, it was not impressive. But Nintendo games get polished up towards the end. Sometimes it might look better.
He used a plunger weapon in that, and that's he used that in his Smash Brothers.
Smash.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of like a
lot
hint.
of people.
Yeah,
I saw. Yeah, a lot of people were speculating like, "Hey, Luigi never had a plunger to the face move before."
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. The only thing I hope for Luigi's Mansion 3, I mean, I hope it builds off 1 and 2 gameplay wise. But the only thing I hope is that it goes back to the Ghost having like personalities from Luigi's Mansion 1, because 2 didn't have that. They're just all just generic ghosts.
Yeah, and they were so cool in the first one.
Yeah.
So.
They were super cool. I don't know if that was like Next Level Games doing, or if that was like Nintendo mandating something, like the way they fucking took out all the different individualized characters in the Paper Mario RPGs and stuff, and just made everything a toad.
They made that. Sometimes I don't know if they realize what people actually enjoy from some of their games. No, I'm serious. They just go,
I think you're right.
People like this game, and it's honestly, when it's only one game in the series, when it's only Luigi's Mansion, it's hard to know what specific ingredient is what people liked until you make a sequel and you omit something. It's like, oh, actually, this was a key ingredient.
Right.
Yeah. I hope it's less mission based. Like, I hope we get like multiple mansions like the second game, but maybe not like missions where you just keep going in them and have different parts open over and over.
Yeah,
I agree.
Looks like it takes place in a hotel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at least the part that's in this, absolutely, because there was some Mario luggage and stuff. Mario's missing, guys. Luigi's gonna save him
in Mario's hotel.
In Mario's hotel, available exclusively on Philips CD.
Oh God, I'm not even going to touch that. Animal Crossing coming to Switch, and also Isabelle coming to Smash.
I am super hyped for new Animal Crossing.
Me too, but I feel like this is a lot like Metroid Prime 4, where like they show a logo, and it's just like, can everyone please get off our nuts? We're making the fucking game.
That was it, exactly. Like, so many people shut up finally, because people were starting to go crazy for Animal Crossing.
Yeah, no, I'm glad it's coming, but like they don't have anything to show for this game.
They got, I mean, at least they put a date on it. On
That's
like the Metroid
true.
Prime 4 one. They had a 2019. Metroid Prime 4 was literally just a redone Metroid trilogy logo.
Right.
Yeah, and that was what, a year and a half ago at this point.
Yeah,
and we still haven't seen anything since then. I thought this was hilarious the way they revealed it.
It was good.
I was
Trolling
excited,
everybody.
and then I was like, "Oh, wait, never mind." And then it was a reverse double troll, man.
Oh, it was so awesome.
Well, it's kind of like
They got me
the
good.
King K. Rool reveal, right?
Yeah, but like even more heartbreaking.
Yes, it's more heartbreaking.
I was surprised that they had a couple big reveals. I mean, I think Luigi's Mansion 3 is a pretty decent reveal, and Animal Crossing as well, considering this, this Direct was supposed to air a week before and was delayed due to, the big issues in Japan with the typhoon.
There's earthquake in what's that northern province?
Hokkaido.
Hokkaido. There's an earthquake in Hokkaido.
Okay. And some of this stuff had leaked ahead of time, so we had heard about. There was a bunch of Final Fantasy games announced for Switch, and we had heard some of that, but maybe not quite the extent. So we've got Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy IX, Final Fantasy X, Final Fantasy XII, World of Final Fantasy. There's Crystal Chronicles Remastered. I feel like I'm missing one.
15 Pocket
15,
Edition?
15 Pocket Edition.
10 2.
Chocobo.
Oh, yeah.
Chocobo thing.
Yeah, 10 and 10 too. Yeah, like I think I was very surprised how many big announcements there were in this thing. So
A lot of these coming to Steam and Xbox One.
True.
They are, yeah. But I think it's. I mean, all of those. I don't know about the Chocobo Mystery Dungeon, but all of those are actually pretty. Like World of Final Fantasy is actually really good. I'm looking forward to playing Crystal Chronicles again. I wish they would re-release all like the 3DS ones. Those were really good.
Crystal Chronicles Online is going to be great.
It's going to be great.
I'm excited for that.
Oh
one.
man, please re-release the Crystal Bearers. It's like top 10 Wii game. It's so good.
All right, so when we play, who's going to carry the chalice? Because I'm not.
None of us are. We'll get someone else to be the chalice person.
All right. One lucky
Do
listener
you
could
want to
carry
hang
around
out
the
the
bucket
Ludowave
for
radio
us.
crew and carry their cup?
we can get somebody to do that.
Oh, fantastic!
But I think this is great. I'm especially looking forward to Final Fantasy 12.
Because you can't just play it on your PS4. Oh wait, no, handheld.
It's hand. You're
now.
exactly. That's exactly right.
We got a remake of Katamari Damacy. Katamari Damacy
Nice.
Reroll. I never played any of these games, but it seems cool they're bringing it back.
I played the first one. And it was super fun, and I had no desire to play any of the others.
I've played this one and the one on Vita. I think it's like a We Love Katamari or something.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. How do you like them, Craig?
Nah, it's all right. I mean, I can take it or leave it. Honestly, I don't dislike it, but it doesn't like get my engine running. Megan's really into. She likes Katamari, so she's really into this release.
I think the first game was great, which is this one again.
Yeah.
So I'll just buy this one again and just only play the first one forever. What else?
Kirby's Extra Epic Yarn. It's coming to 3DS in 2019. So we're getting new
weird
3DS games in 2019.
That's a weird pool.
It's a weird name.
It's a,
Kirby's Extra Epic Yarn. I don't know.
I just feel like it's a weird game to go back to and release on the 3DS.
Well, it's only been 8 years or something. I don't know.
All right, whatever.
They're probably. I mean, Kirby's having kind of a moment the last couple of years, and it was probably just low hanging fruit for them to bring over. Honestly,
Yeah, I guess. Probably went, hey, can we port this? Sure.
I mean, I think it's a great game. I think it's one of Kirby's best games. So
I think it's the only Kirby game I've ever finished. I'm not a Kirby fan.
Slow baby shit, and it's fine.
It is the Steven Totila review on Kotaku for this game has the best quote. Sums up games like this perfectly. I can't say any better. So he said, "This game is a lot like a hot fudge sundae. It's not difficult to eat, but that doesn't make it any less enjoyable." And I think that sums up Epic Yarn pretty well.
I mean, that's fantastic, but he's wrong because the game's boring.
You're fucking. You spent 230 hours with that Weeboo game. The fuck do you know?
I needed to summon the last.
Seth, at this rate, he's never going to play
Here's-
Spider-Man.
Here's a more apt quote for Kirby's Epic Yarn. Eating unflavored, boring ass porridge isn't hard.
Oh, it's not
but it also
unflavored.
sucks.
It's not unflavored. Although I would
right.
say that Yoshi's Woolly World took that concept and made it Yoshi's Woolly World is fantastic. That's the best.
Yeah, I love Woolly World.
But it's not that much different. I mean, it's better. It is different. It is better. But like, it's conceptually, it's not radically apart from Epic Yarn.
Yeah, but it just feels better to play, and it's less slow. And
it is. No, it is a much better game. That game, that game is so good.
And you're not filling up that bead counter or whatever the hell's going on.
No, you're just collecting balls of yarn.
That's
okay. All right. Anyway, so we got Kirby. What else we got coming?
Yeah,
Chris?
there's a bunch of board games coming. Pandemic and Catan and stuff.
I love Catan. Pandemic can fuck right the hell off that game. The game is bullshit.
I love Pandemic, but it is bullshit.
It's so hard. I've never won that game. Never, not once.
I think I've won like once. I've definitely won more than once, but a couple times we definitely were not playing by the actual rules. So
that's the only way you can win Pandemic is by cheating.
Yeah, I think we won once playing by the actual rules, but beyond that, yeah, it is a lot of bullshit. I will not deny that. How do you feel about playing board games on the Switch? I feel like part of the experience of playing board games is the board. So I don't know that I'm super excited for these, but interested.
I'm interested in having a way to, make it more convenient or even make it a solo experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like the plus side is you don't have to lug a bunch of shit and then set up cards and set up tokens and explain the rules.
A Pandemic has a million tiny little pieces.
Yeah, it does.
So with everything automated like that, that just helps out.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. The solo experience. I actually I told my wife these board games were coming to Switch, and she was actually excited at the prospect of playing Pandemic solo. She's like, "Oh, could I play Pandemic?"
Oh my God.
And I'm like,
Jackie's
I guess you could.
masochistic.
I mean, I hadn't even considered that as a possibility. I'm like, oh, board games. Like, I'd rather just play with all my friends on a board. But, playing as a solo experience, that's definitely, an option you can't get from the physical board game. So, that could be interesting. Civilization 6, I have never played Civilization, so you guys have any feeling on this?
I played Civilization Revolution on the DS, but... I mean, not speaking about Civilization specifically, I like the idea that these sim management games are coming to Switch. There was like almost none of them on the 3DS. The DS had a few. It had Civilization Revolution and a couple of SimCity games, but it's weird. These are very good systems for this. These portable systems with touch screens. You'd think there'd be more of these, but there really isn't. And with Switch... we have Civ 6. We had City Skylines just come out. A new Roller Coaster Tycoon is coming out soon. I don't know if it's going to be good or not. That's, flip a coin. Who knows? But just the idea that there are more of these games, it's a good fit, particularly in handheld mode. So I'm glad that they're coming. I like these sorts of games.
I noticed Town by Game Freak isn't on
our list here. It has the most generic title ever, so I totally forgot about it.
It was working title.
Town.
It's a working title. Town.
I thought that had such a great art style, but then when they were like, "Oh, it takes place in this one town," and I'm like,
"No," they were like, "It takes place in this one wage."
Right? Yeah, I mean, like, where am I gonna I can't explore? Like, you got this beautiful game. And I can't go anywhere. Like, I'm just gonna go down the street to Hank's house. Like, that's it. Like, that's the game.
I like the '80s look, '80s anime look of the characters for sure.
It's very good. It's very colorful. It's a very good looking game. I'm sort of disappointed that the scope is. But I mean, we don't know anything about the game. To be fair, we don't know what that's gonna play like. But I'm just sort of picturing a game that looks like that, and then you can go out and explore like that.
This might just be like a download. We don't know like the scope of this game.
Right. That's entirely fair.
I mean, well, first of all, I was surprised at how many people don't know that Game Freak makes new IPs on a regular basis, because I saw so many people were like, "Oh, wow, Game Freak game is not Pokemon."
I don't know if I'd say regular, but periodically they do.
I think they have 5 new IPs in the last 6 new IPs in the last 8 years, if you count this one. I think that's.
I can only think of a couple, but yeah, all right.
No, they got Pocket Card Jockey, which is awesome.
Harmonite,
Harmonite, Tembo the Badass Elephant.
Oh, they did that.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
Okay.
which came to everything but Nintendo systems, which is great. And then they have like some Steam game where you control trash. You're a trash bender.
Okay.
Huh.
That's all I could think of off the top of my head. And then this
And then
one, I'm
Town.
sure there's another one in there somewhere.
Well, it sounds like some of those are clear winners. Some of those are clear fucking losers. So I don't know.
Well, I mean, I just think that shows you what Game Freak is interested in outside of Pokemon, really.
Well, it sounds like the stuff that they work with Nintendo is the better stuff.
I feel, wasn't Pocket Card Jockey a phone game before it came to the 3DS?
I don't know. It's very possible. I don't think in the U.S. Maybe in
but
Japan.
That game's fucking
That game
amazing.
is good.
That's probably like.
But Harmonite
might
was.
be-
I mean, it's not. I'm not very good at rhythm games, but that's like Bit Trip Runner. I mean, it was.
Like, I am good at rhythm games, and Harmonite like got weird and hard for me in places. So I don't. It's okay, but I feel like it's not.
Okay.
Something's off. Something's off.
Pocket Card Jockey is excellent, though.
Yeah, no, that game's fantastic. But
And
Yes.
Nintendo's online service for the Switch launched,
All
which
right.
is conveniently titled Nintendo Switch Online. So now
Which
you can
is-
pay them money to play Splatoon and Mario Kart and all those games online.
That's
and also
fine.
get
Now it
NES
has-
games.
it has voice chat now in the phone app.
Yeah, it actually has voice
That's
chat,
true.
and apparently with randoms too. Apparently,
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was reading an
Yeah.
article on Kotaku about one of the.
if someone else is using the app and you're match made up with them, you'll be put in a chat room with them. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, the article, the journalist was saying that all her matches were like really friendly and was like some weird bizarro online.
In Mario Kart,
experience
yeah,
where
I was reading the
everybody
same article. Everyone
Yeah.
was just super
Yeah,
polite.
right.
That won't last long.
Not until I get on. No, I'm nice. But what was I going to say about the Nintendo? Why is Nintendo like iterating? Not even iterating. Why are they just completely changing their
They
online?
do this. This is their third
service
it was-
for every single.
Yeah,
Yes,
everything. I don't
This
know.
is the third time they've online. It's the third completely different. thing.
Here's the thing. So this goes broader than online. I don't think Nintendo cares that a lot of their stuff is just sort of ephemeral. I don't to them, what's out now is what's out now, and you play it and you enjoy it, and then you move on to the next thing. They're not looking to establish anything permanent. They've had endless waves of accessories for their systems, console revisions, game re-releases. They ditched the virtual console, which is, but by all measure that I can think of, a successful platform. They've completely nuked that. They don't care. They'll just make something new.
They need to care about this, and like the online. At very least, it would be so much nicer. If there
I
was
100.
something
This
that
yes.
continued
This
over
this
from
for this
system to
one
system.
thing, I completely agree. But they don't care.
Yeah, I want them to care. Nintendo, start fucking caring about
They,
this.
when they sell you something, they're not looking to sell you like a permanent plastic thing or a permanent service. That's to them. That's just temporary. Like I think they want to sell, like they want to sell Nintendo, and you'll keep rebuying Nintendo no matter what form it's in. That's just how they look at it.
And the thing about Nintendo Switch Online is, by its very name, it's not going to carry over to the next service.
Yes, that's
Yep.
true. But I think
They're
that's
getting
just
us
part
ready.
of Nintendo's philosophy. I think that's just the way they work.
Yeah,
It is, yeah. But I feel like this service is fine. I see a lot of negative talking about it online, and I'm not going to jump up and down and tell you it's like the best deal in the world, but I don't feel particularly slighted by it.
It's cheap as fuck.
It's
Yeah,
cheap
it's
even
cheap.
for a single. If you buy like $20 plan for a year for a single person, that's still pretty inexpensive. But if you get
That's one dinner
that's
out,
one right. But
man.
if you get on a
That's-
family plan, that's 8 people with basically no restrictions. They can be different regions, different switches, and it boils down to less than $5 a year per person. That's per year. You're paying less than what you pay per month on the other platforms. It doesn't cost anything. You get cloud saves. People are complaining, oh, if I stop paying, I don't get my cloud. They delete my cloud saves. No shit, Sherlock. You don't pay for a thing, you don't get the thing. How is that difficult to understand? It blew my mind that people are upset. I wouldn't even cross my mind to think that that my stuff would still be in the
Yeah,
cloud
I
if I
would-
wasn't paying for it.
And they're like, well, Sony just keeps it for 6 months, even if you stop subscribing or something. Like, well, you're paying also fucking $60 a year for this. So
I mean, I think it's great that Sony does that.
It
That's
should be an
great.
expectation.
But it's not right. I think that's above. I think that's just an example of something extra. Like that's. I wouldn't expect Sony to do that. So it's fine. I mean, the bigger problem with saved data is that there should be a way to save it locally, to save it to to back it up to your SD card and put it on your computer like you do with 3DS or something. To me, that's almost like a separate but related thing. It has no bearing on the value of cloud saves. The cloud saves are fine. You don't pay for it, they delete them. That's fine. Listen, if you get a storage unit and you don't pay it, they're going to toss your shit out and auction it. Like that's, you don't get to keep it. That's not how that works. But they should have a local save. The cloud saves are fine.
Also, a thing that Nintendo did that they didn't even mention anywhere big that I saw, but you can now log into your account from other Switches and download your stuff.
Yeah, you can have like a secondary console.
That's not even. I don't even think that's Nintendo Switch Online. I think that's just part of the 6.0 update.
Yeah, that's just part of the 6.0 update because they locked down the accounts or whatever.
Yeah, for those who haven't heard about this, because Nintendo didn't advertise, I don't know why, because this is big. You basically have game sharing now. You can, when you log into your what do they call it? The Nintendo Network ID? Is that what it's called? I don't know what it's called anymore. Your Nintendo account.
That was the last one.
Your Nintendo account. When you log into your Nintendo account on a Switch, that Switch automatically becomes your primary console. But if you log into it on another Switch, that becomes a secondary one. And that could be your significant other, that could be your brother, it could be whatever. And on their Switch, if they're using your account, they can download your games. And they have to be online. They have to always be connected to the internet to do that. But that seems like a small price to pay.
Yeah. I think you can't play them at the same time, too.
You can't play... Right, that's why you have to be online. Because if you start up a game, a downloadable game on your primary Switch, it's going to pause it on the secondary Switch. So they got to stop playing. So it's almost like if you have a one book in your house, only one person can read it at a time.
Yeah. But that seems totally valid to me. I mean, I'd rather that than nothing. I mean, it seems awesome that they're offering this at all. So,
yeah, no, that would have been great. Like a few weeks ago when I was visiting Jody, and I could have logged into her Switch and downloaded some of the games.
If only it was portable, and you could have taken your own with you.
I'm not going to fucking love that.
But no, that's. I mean, you can also now post multiple screenshots to social media from the album application, which is nice. It's a nice little small thing. The NES, I'm a little disappointed about the NES games. So what they got? You got 15 NES games?
There's 20 NES games.
My mistake.
Getting all these numbers wrong with these classic games.
I honestly feel like the NES kind of sucks. Anytime Nintendo starts over with one of these services, whether it's Virtual Console on a new platform, whatever, the baseline always seems to be the NES. And that's because it was their first system. I get that. You're looking at this chronologically. But I'm looking at the fact that, most of the NES games just kind of suck now.
There's some
I'm not
ones.
denying that. I'm not denying that, Mario 3 is not great. I'm not denying that the original Zelda, even though a little challenging to play if you've never played it before, is not a great game. I'm not denying that. But there's 20 games, and I can probably pick about 3 or 4 that I give an honest fuck about. The rest of them, I can launch them into the sun. I don't give a shit. Get them out of here. Who cares?
And the problem is that the ones that are really good, I've played to fucking
That's the other problem, right? I just don't know who... I just don't... I hate to say this because it makes it sound like I'm being disrespectful to history or whatever, but I think anyone listening to this podcast knows that's not the case. But I'm just going to say, I don't think these games are relevant. I don't think they have relevancy to anyone. The people like us, we've played them a million times, and the people who haven't, are they really going to sit down and play a full game of Super Mario Brothers? Probably fucking not.
I've read one impression of somebody playing River City Ransom for the first time, and they were surprised at how good the game was.
I read that too, and that's great. I think most people are going to treat this as like what we were talking about with the PlayStation Classic. They're going to treat it as a curiosity. They're going to poke around at it. They're really not going to play these games. Whereas I think if you contrast that with Super Nintendo, and now you have to pick the best of the best on the Super Nintendo, but if you do, the game, several of the games that are on the Super Nintendo Classic, those are games that are worth sitting down and playing. I just don't think it's there for the NES anymore. I just think it's just too old and dusty.
Yeah.
It's just,
Also, I mean, to be fair, I haven't tried out the online play on the NES. I'm going to play some this week.
yeah, I think that's great and all, but are you really going to play? Are you really going to be like, fuck yeah, I'm so glad I got Nintendo Switch Online so I can play Balloon Fight online? No one's saying that. It's not going to happen.
All right, well, I'm going to cancel my Balloon Fight plans.
You know, I'm not trying to be an asshole. I just think that, like...
No, I mean, like, no, you're right. Like, even if I get, like, 30 minutes of, like, fun out of that, that's not something I'm going to be returning to, like, every weekend.
No, absolutely. I mean, the NES was the baseline when the Wii launched with its virtual console. Like, oh, this is great. I can play Zelda again. This is awesome. That was fantastic. In, like, 2006, it's not fantastic
even
anymore.
Going back to the Wii launch, they had a bunch of systems at launch. They had the NES and the
That's
SNES
true.
and N64. I think Mario 64 was there on day one.
I mean, if nothing else, it should have been a mix, and not a mix that weighed heavily on the NES. It's
Right.
just, I know why they're doing it. It's their first system, but it just doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah. I mean, to me, you compare it to when the Wii launched and there were games from the N64 that was at that point 10 years old, and now we're getting Nintendo Switch Online with only NES games, and they're like 30 years old. I mean, it's ridiculous. We're going backwards, you know? I was hoping, I mean, it's obviously unrealistic of me to expect that, you know, maybe that time frame would continue and we'd have games from 10 or 15 years ago on the Virtual Console at this point. But, you know, it's amazing to me that we're getting less stuff, you know? Why can't we have N64 games and Super Nintendo games?
There are people who are like 17 years old who were born after the N64 ended. Like, there are people who can now vote who were infants when the N64 was in its heyday. They don't.
Right.
These are people who did not experience life concurrently with the N64. It's retro at this point. It's old.
Right.
To me, like, that's probably where they should have started with.
Right. It's retro and it's old, but it's also those games are playable and interesting and fun and
Yeah.
probably going to appeal more to kids nowadays.
I think so, too.
I would think. Obviously, I don't know what the kids want. How do you do, fellow kids? But, I mean, I don't know. It seems like those would be more accessible now than not every NES game, don't get me wrong, but a
GameCube
majority of the
launched-
ones on this list.
Yeah, even the GameCube launched 17 fucking years ago.
Yep.
It's old. Like, the Super Nintendo should have been the baseline. There should have been a mix of, like, Super Nintendo, N64, and GameCube. I feel like this is... And if that meant they had to charge $30 instead of $20, so be it. That's still not that much money. You know, the NES is not... It's just not attractive in the way it once was. And where the fuck is Star Tropics, you fucking assholes?
Yeah. I want a portable Star Tropics. Give me that.
That should
Give me it now.
I don't know. Why is that not on 3DS? I don't understand.
It'll come
That is like the one NES game I wanted on 3DS.
Yeah, me
I'm
too.
Still waiting for it.
It looks like they're adding three games a month.
Well, I hope you enjoy Mighty Bomb Jack, because that's coming.
Nobody likes Mighty Bomb Jack. I never even played it. I just watched a retro game challenge dude play it, and that was enough for me.
That's about all you need.
N64 games are ugly, though. Do you think like the kids would be into that?
Have you played one on Wii U? They're passable. They're passable.
All right.
They don't look great because
I'm assuming they're not as blurry.
that
anymore,
yes, yeah, no, that's yeah.
Okay.
They don't look fantastic. They're not like soup. They're not like. I wouldn't compare them to what Microsoft and Rare did with Banjo-Kazooie on 360 and Xbox One. I wouldn't say it's good as that, but it's better than what you remember.
Okay, well that's good because those games were fucking.
Yes,
cool.
they were. Yeah.
Like I mean, even the nice looking games like Conquer and stuff, they were all Vaseline.
Right, they were
I mean, that
smudgy.
was like pretty much. Yeah, that was the trade off between the N64 and the PS1. It's like a pick your poison. You get like pixely and warping textures, or you get like some blurry ass Vaseline games.
Right.
Yeah.
It was not a pretty time for playing video games.
Ultimately, though, I feel like I said, the Switch Online is fine. It's not very expensive and whatever.
Yeah, not for the price. It's fine. And we knew it was coming since day one. It's not like it's a surprise
Right.
or anything.
Right.
Just consider that all a freebie because Nintendo didn't have their shit together yet. And I put this up there just because I saw a lot of people on message boards freaking out about it, but it's not that big of a thing. When you play with the CRT filter on handheld mode or maybe some LCD screens, it causes some image retention, temporary image retention left on the screen.
That's got to be a
from
software
the
thing. How does that work like that? It's so weird.
So what I read, and I can't credit the dude right now, but I read it on Reset Era. He said that the CRT filter also comes with like a RF type filter where it like mimics an RF signal, and there's like very slight like flickering on the edges of some of the scan lines, which cause the pixels to go between two states really fast as it does the RF flicker, and then that just causes the pixels to freak out.
What
at
the
those
actual
spots.
fuck?
Yeah. But it's temporary, and if you play other stuff, they'll go away. But it's not like something cool to look at and might like freak you out if you're seeing it or something. And
Oh, well,
so,
that's good to keep in mind
yeah.
if you're actually going to pack away the hours playing Yoshi and you turn on the CRT filter.
Yeah, just don't use the CRT filter.
Oh, and there's actually another bit of news. Telltale Games is closing.
I did read
Oh yeah,
this
that
today.
just came out right
Yeah,
now.
it just came out today. Yeah, that's they laid off 225 people. They got 25 people on staff to finish up some obligation with Minecraft for Netflix, and that's it. The Walking Dead's not going to be finished, and they're done.
What kind of fucking mismanagement had to have happened there? Because
I don't really play Telltale Games, so I don't really have a lot invested in them.
yeah, I played a few of the early ones, but then it's impossible not to read about a lot of the other ones because so many people play them. Especially stuff like the Walking Dead games and the Wolf Among Us, I know are really, really big.
Well, here's what I think. I think that number one, they simultaneously overstretched themselves and then didn't stretch themselves at all. And by that I mean like they had a gajillion games, but they're all from one genre. They never did anything else. So when you're constantly like licensing all these things just to put out another point and click adventure, are you really expanding your audience? Like,
I mean, they launched as they wanted to be adventure game people, right? That like the first thing they did was license a bunch of adventure game properties, and
right?
such.
But I don't think you need like 20 different properties all at once. I mean, they just spread themselves thin, and it's like, I don't know, dude. I don't know if your audience is going to be playing all these games it's only going to be your audience because I don't like adventure games. I'm not going to get it. You're not going to get me in there.
I mean, I think their hope was like with their Batman game, fans of Batman would buy the Batman one. And,
I don't think it works that way. I mean, you might get a few, but I don't think that's going to happen. And obviously, it didn't. I think the other problem is I've read articles that like their tech was seriously outdated.
Yeah, that's the main complaint I've read from Telltale fans is that they've been begging for a goddamn new game engine for the past.
It's not even just from a player's perspective, from a developer perspective. Like, for example, one thing I read is that there's no physics. There's no physics engine. If the example in the article that I read, it might have been on Kotaku some time ago, they said like if an apple drops off a shelf and rolls across the floor, there's no physics engine that governs that as it would be in other games. Someone has to manually hand animate that drop and roll.
Oh, God, really?
Sounds efficient.
Right. And on top of that, you have what sounds like bad management, and that there was just I'm saying it sucks for those 250 people, and it sucks for the people that enjoy Walking Dead and won't be able to finish that. Because this was the final season. Like, they're going to be like 2 episodes short of the final season. It sucks. It sucks for all those folks, but I'm not surprised.
I'm a little surprised because I didn't hear anything like as far as financial worries went at the studio. I thought they were still chugging.
I didn't hear any financial stuff, but when you think about like when a studio grows that big, when they go from like a few dozen people to 250 in such a short amount of time, they start licensing a bunch of shit, and it turns out their tech is really old, and there's whispers that their management sucks. I don't think that I don't think that studio's long for this world.
Yeah, they just bit off more than they could chew. And they had like other games lined up, like they had Guardians of the Galaxy lined
Stranger
up,
Things.
and
Right.
Stranger Things lined up. So they had some big fucking properties that they had lined up, and they just sank. All the properties fucking sank their ship. Their ship was shitty technology, and all the licenses they just piled up and sank it.
Yep.
Yeah, it sucks for the people working there.
It
Yeah,
does.
absolutely. Yeah.
Is that it?
I think that's it. Is that it? This is a very long episode.
It's a very, very. This is TV and Lust length episode.
Some people, a lot of our audience actually likes that. So don't get used to it because I'm not going to sit here for 2.5 hours again.
Yeah,
But
we're not always big on this, but every once in a while it happens.
we had a lot to talk about. I think it was a good episode. Spider-Man, Destiny, all this news. It was good. We had some good
Yeah.
stuff.
I'm going to be up in 5 hours. God damn.
All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for listening. You can find us on SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/Ludowave Radio. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcasts. Please subscribe. Please rate us in these applications. It really helps us out. We would really appreciate it. You can also find us on Facebook and on Twitter @Ludowave Radio on both. You can find our theme song is composed exclusively for us by Morning Moon and Mercury. You can find more of his stuff at morningmoonandmercury.bandcamp.com. You can find me. I'm on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at TV and Lust on both of those. Seth, where can people find you?
I'm on Twitter at Seth Gastelum, and Chris.
I am on Twitter and Instagram at @eChrisDunn.
And we're out.
National Rocket Launcher Day.